I need to.
Sup, bruh? Sup, bruh?
Bro?
Can you dig it?
And off we go, ladies and gentlemen, on a Friday, on a Thursday. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Final day of the week for us. We'll be off tomorrow. Got a little something to take care of, so we'll be off tomorrow. Likely going to be the last day off until towards the end of November.
Dude, you said that like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, this one's not really my choice.
Okay.
This one's not really my choice. I certainly, if I was going to take off in football season, I would take off in the middle of the week, honestly. Like, I would break the week up. I'd take off on a Wednesday or a Thursday, not on a Friday. Not just not on a Friday, but not on a Friday where there are 3 massively consequential football games for the 3 largest teams that we cover here in the Upstate.
By the way, your boy overnight just picked Clemson to lose. A lot of people picking Clemson to lose.
Yeah,
weekend.
it's a
shocking, surprising how quickly things turn in the world of football.
I mean, how quickly things turn in life sometimes, and the reality is, you got to react. You got to react. Sometimes what you thought is true is not true, and to accept that, embrace that, react to it, and change your thoughts, beliefs, and actions based on that is, frankly, how you succeed and thrive at being a human being. Now, I know that's very deep and dramatic for will Clemson beat Georgia Tech? But
I'm just amazed that you put that kind of a paragraph together at 6:02 in the morning.
Oh, I want to be abundantly clear. We're gonna have a real deep conversation today.
Uh-oh.
We're going to get away from sports for a segment today. Because yesterday was a weird day. And I think we all know yesterday was a weird day. And I am not here to utilize the show, at least not that often, I don't think, as a bully pulpit of any type. I'm not here to preach from the microphone. I will bring up life philosophies on the show because I think that there are times when they fit into sports. I have oft used the expression that the Venn diagram of sports and politics, the Venn diagram of sports and real life, the 2 circles aren't separate. There may be, and if we do it right, hopefully will be, very few times that we have to play in that little overlapping segment of the Venn diagram. But often we do and we will. College football has I think, proven that over the past couple of years, as we now have and probably have arrived at a spot where the only way that we're going to reach compromises in college football that everybody can be maybe not happy with, but at least can live with, is probably going to be through some sort of legislative maneuvering. It is one of the places where the 2 circles of sports and politics, or in this case, I think sports and real life, overlap. What happened yesterday at Utah Valley University with the assassination of political commentator Charlie Kirk, it was heavy. It was heavy. And I don't plan on spending all day on this, but I do feel personally some level of, I don't know if it's an obligation to, or if it's a desire to, or if it is some mix of the both. I don't think it is going to come to a shock to anyone that has listened to this program for more than a few minutes to find out that I didn't really agree with Charlie Kirk on anything. There was very, very little that I agreed with Charlie Kirk on. In fact, I vehemently disagreed with Charlie Kirk on most things. What happened yesterday is unacceptable. It's inexcusable. It is pure evil. I disagreed with Charlie Kirk vehemently on most things he said into microphones. That doesn't mean what happened yesterday is the road that we need to go down. To me, sports has always been a place where we've been able to kind of put that stuff away for a minute. When you get up in the morning, before you dive into the reality of, I've got bills to pay, I've got kids to worry about, I've got responsibilities that I have to take care of and not enough time to take care of all of them, before you have to start dealing with your real life. The point of this show has always been, let's get you started off with something light. Sports are important to us, but I have also said a million times and a million times more, there's a reason, there's a deeper reason that sports is important to us than just we love competition. It is because sports is, or at least is supposed to be, a place where we can allow the strongest emotions that we have to be channeled somewhere. We don't have to think rationally or logically when it comes to sports. We don't. In what other arena would going to a football game or to going to any venue, taking off your shirt, painting yourself purple with an orange C on your chest, in what other world would we look at that as normal behavior? But in football, you're the best of the best if you do that. Is there anything better than a great tailgate? Not really. Not in my opinion. There's not much better than a great tailgate. There's not much better than hanging around with a bunch of people and being in a place where tribalism, my people are better than your people, is not just encouraged, it's celebrated. But the whole point is to leave it there. The whole point is to give us this outlet where we can have those feelings, where our emotions, our strongest emotions, are allowed to come to the surface. And we have an outlet to express them, because you can't do that in a lot of other places. If I showed up to a radio station remote with my shirt off and my chest painted blue with a big white A for Odyssey on the front of it, my boss would be like, dude, drink after the remote, not before it, man. Go home. So I was sitting on the couch yesterday. I went out. I had lunch with a friend of mine. I went home. I took a little nap. And when I woke up, the wife told me what happened with Charlie Kirk. And again, vehemently disagree with most things Charlie Kirk said. But there was one thing that I very much agreed with Charlie Kirk on. And while I do not always think that he participated in this in good faith, I did agree with Charlie Kirk on one thing. Discussion and debate are the strongest weapon that we have to fixing our problems. It's not violence. It's not tribalism. It's not hatred. It is discussion and debate. One of the reasons that I have for many, many years shaped everything that I do, around communications, is because I genuinely believe in my heart that the strongest weapon ever developed by human beings were not nuclear warheads or Browning automatic rifles. The strongest tool, the strongest weapon, whatever you want to call it, that we've ever developed is communication, words. And unfortunately, like most weapons, that can be used for good or for evil. But I do think that at the end of the day, if we make a good faith effort to communicate, instead of what I have seen happening in just everybody who disagrees with me is a this or a that. To my friends that are on the left, and yes, it is going to delve into the world of the political for a minute. I swear to you, we're going to focus on football today. But I personally, Rob Brown, not the radio guy, the dude who is a proud American citizen, a proud citizen of South Carolina, a proud citizen of the upstate, I feel compelled to say this. I didn't ask for permission. I'm not going to. To my friends on the left, of which I have many, not everyone who lines up with certain political philosophies is a Nazi. And when you say that they are, this is the type of thing that is incited. To my friends on the right, not everyone who is more progressive is some liberal loon who incites violence and hates America. They're just not. They just have a different view. They have a different belief, a different opinion on how it is that we can all reach the goal that we all have together. And when we devolve ourselves, as I believe is happening, when we devolve ourselves to where we allow tribalism to become our driving motivator. My side is right, your side is wrong, and if you disagree with me, you are a fill in the blank here. You're a communist, you're a Marxist, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. If we allow ourselves to get to the point, I'm not even talking about the politicians. Politicians are going to be politicians. They are forever and always going to run to the extreme of the conversation to score points. But if we, out here, in real life America, in the cities, in the towns, in the suburbs, in the country, if we out here allow that to become the way that we speak, not to, but at each other, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on anything. But you know what I will do? Our buddy Kane in the chat, who I suspect, respectfully, because we've had the conversations away from radio, does. And Kane and I have been planning on, and unfortunately it hasn't happened yet, meeting up and grabbing some chicken wings to talk at some point, because I think that is important. I have many friends of mine who I vehemently disagree with politically, that are everywhere on the scale, from big-time Trump supporters to the people that are as far on the opposite side of that spectrum as can possibly be. Do I think any of them are evil? No. Do I disagree? Yes. Do I think some of them may be misled and misguided? Absolutely. But it's not going to make me believe that they are evil people. Not at all. Do I think that there are people in positions of authority and power that are evil? Yes, I absolutely do. Do I think that there are people amongst us that are evil? Yes, I do. This is why I think that the politicians who immediately ran yesterday to, see, the Democrats did this, just like when we had a couple of politicians in Minnesota a couple of months ago get assassinated, when the people that are my friends on the left started going, this is what the Republicans did. No. A handful of crazy people did this. A handful of people who were, however they arrived there, they were misled, they were misguided, they were mentally challenged, they had issues, whatever the case is. The reality is, your neighbor who you disagree with politically didn't do this. And if you went to bed last night and you were saying it was deserved, or so-and-so, or this group of people encouraged this, made this happen, and your brain started thinking about people in your life and putting them into that group, I am begging you, as a fellow citizen of a country that I want, and I assume you do too, to be as safe and secure and as prosperous as possible. Recognize that the goal is the same. The goal is the same. I genuinely suspect that while I, again, probably didn't agree with much, if anything, that Charlie Kirk ever said, I do think we wanted to get to the same place. I just think we had very different roadmaps on how to arrive there. This is why I believe what happened yesterday is not acceptable, excusable. There should be no celebration or dancing at all from anyone. And it should be the exact opposite way. And I don't care if the person who is the target is someone that you consider evil or bad, or this is not what we do. That is some stuff that we read about in history books about third world countries. We're not that. We're better than that, or at least we're supposed to be. But I deleted social media off my phone last night. I will be obligated at some point to put it back on because it is part of my jobs and responsibilities. But I deleted it off my phone because what I was reading from fellow citizens on both the left and the right of this country, a country that is supposed to be the shining city on the hill, we were rolling around in the crap last night. And it's a shame. So I can't speak to the people that are in the highest positions of authority. I just can't. Those people they're in a different world than we are. And I'm just a local yokel nobody. All right. My message isn't going to get there. But I can speak to the folks who tune in and listen to the show. I can speak to the armada, the 6 a.m.ers, the folks who tune in. And I will say this. I think most of you probably by this point in my career have figured out where I stand. I hope that nobody has ever said, I disagree with Rob politically, therefore I can't listen to him talk about sports. Because that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. If you can't have a conversation about football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, whatever, track and field, whatever, with somebody because you disagree with their political philosophy, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the issue. When we, not the people in positions of power and authority, it is on us to decide who those people are. But if we who go through the day-to-day, if we who engage in business and recreation with each other in our community get to a point where you see somebody and you know your political philosophy does not line up and you have arrived at the conclusion that that person hates America, that's the problem. And I firmly believe, respectfully, you have not arrived at that conclusion. You've been led to that conclusion. And I firmly believe that anybody in a place of communication at any level, from dude with a bullhorn on the side of the road to the highest political office in the land, anybody who says the people who disagree with me hate America, that's the bad person. Okay? These people disagree. That person disagrees. This group disagrees, and therefore they hate America. That's a problem, guys. That's a problem. We're better than that. Our political differences date back to quite literally the founding of this country. That's never going to stop. We're a nation of 340 million people. Shock of shocks, we're going to have some differences in opinions and philosophy. You can put two people in a room and you're going to have some differences in philosophy and opinion. That's fine. That's good. We are meant to be the melting pot. That is a good thing. It is the ability and the opportunity and the right that we have as Americans to get together, to pull up a chair, and to have the conversation and to make our arguments and hopefully do so in good faith. And we out here in the day-to-day to be able to come to a spot where we are able to say, I don't love the way you would want to do it. You don't love the way I want to do it. The compromise that moves us forward is somewhere in the middle. How do we arrive there? Here's the issue. When one side says the other is bad, evil, and hates America, no matter which direction that bullcrap is flowing, when one side or both sides sit across from each other and say, I'm not willing to have a conversation. I'm not willing to reach a compromise. I'm not willing to do all of that because those people hate America. You understand, we will never be able to reach somewhere that we can stop anything. Somebody on X said, do you do these talks every time there's a school shooting? No, I don't. Not every time. Do I do it sometimes? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I think something should be done there? Absolutely. Am I willing to sit down as someone who is also a gun owner and have that conversation? You are damn right. You're damn right I am. The problem is when I have brought up, hey, I think something should be done, I am told I hate America. Part of this is my own experience. I will acknowledge that. Which hurts me emotionally, sentimentally. It hurts because it's untrue. If we, as the everyday Jimmy's, Joe's, Christie's, and Christines of America's, can't sit across from each other and say, I disagree with almost everything you believe philosophically. But I also recognize that we have to arrive at a decision about what is and is not acceptable. What is and is not the path forward. And if I sit across from somebody and I go, no, actually, I just think you hate America, we're not getting the damn thing done. We're just not. I am aware that sports is our escape. And I promise you, when we come back, we're going into sports. And we're going to treat the show the same way we treat the show every day, because this is the escape. I get it. But at the same time, with what happened yesterday, piled on to what has happened today, what today is the anniversary of, the remembrance of. And I've said for a very long time, one of the best days of my life was just a handful of days after the events of September 11, 2001, because I sat in a football stadium in Niceville, Florida, and I watched as fans of two rival high schools with a wide range of political opinions sat mixed in the stands, not a home side and away side. Everybody sat together and waved the American flag and listened to the national anthem. And for that moment, none of that crap mattered. All of us said, how are we going to be better? How are we going to get through this together? And we have done nothing but walk away from that sentiment and emotion ever since then. And it's not going to stop until you and me and everybody that you pass on the streets today going through their life decide that we all collectively as a country and as a society need to stop labeling and calling each other names and accusing each other of hating each other without even sitting down to talk. And if anybody bases all of their life on that, I don't know how to make it better. I hope we can figure it out because I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. All right. When we come back, we get away from this. We talk football. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
You see.
All right, guys. Good morning. Let's take a live read. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Can I ask a sincere question about college football? And I thought about this on Monday. And I think this is part of the problem. I had a gut reaction of, Rob Brown, you're being insane. You're being insane. But I've thought about it quite a bit more since Monday, and actually think it's a good question. How is it that, as far as I'm aware of, the only team in America that has defeated 2 top 25 football teams so far in this college football season, how is it that South Florida is ranked 18th in the country? How is it? If anybody else if anybody else that is in the top 25 now would have knocked off in 2 weeks a pair of top 25 teams. And in fairness, I am aware that I know a lot of you now are claiming that you knew the whole time Florida's not as good as they looked.
If it's the middle of the season, it will be different. But because it's the first 2 games and a lot of the hype is off of preseason polls, I think if we're, like I said, middle of the season and this happens, they get more credit.
If we're middle of the season, more teams would be teams that have beaten 2 top 25 teams that are inside the top 10. There'd be more of them. There's only one. And so I guess the point is twofold.
Not everybody plays multiple top 10 teams.
That's also true. I think most of the teams inside of the big conferences are going to play at least a top 10 team, but multiple top 25 teams. South Florida's played 2 top 25 teams. They've defeated 2 top 25 teams. One of them at home, Boise State, number 25 in the country, came down to South Florida. The Bulls got the win. Then the Bulls went right across the state into Gainesville, Florida, and knocked off DJ Lagway and the Gators. If anybody else inside of the top 10, top 15 would have done this, the folks inside of the media room would have been losing their gosh darn minds about it. They'd have been going, wait a minute. Look at the conversation around Florida State right now. Florida State started the season unranked. They are now at number 10. One of the 2 wins that Florida State got was against a top 5 team in Alabama. The other one was against East Texas A&M University. I think it's not unfair to say, it is objectively true to say South Florida's 2 wins are a better 2 wins than Florida State's. Now, Florida State pummeled Alabama, a top 5 team, and Florida State dropped a 70 burger on East Texas A&M. But the 2 wins in terms of what we are told are going to be the enhanced metrics that we're using at the end of the year. And granted, the AP poll is just voters. Right? They can vote however they want to vote for whatever reason they want to vote. But my question is, since we know that, whether we think it should or should not, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee regularly lines up closely with the AP poll, at least for the first few. This is one of those reasons that I have said, while I understand exactly why we do an AP Top 25 preseason poll, I don't like it. I don't like it. And this is the reason why. Because if I put down the accomplishments of every team from Ohio State down to number 25 Missouri right now, and we did a blind poll, all you got to see was the resume. Bet you $1 South Florida would be a top 1 or 2 football team right now in the country. Bet you $1. If they were blind resume, you don't get to know what conference they come out of. You don't get to know where they play their ball. All you get to see is who they've played and what they've done on the football field from an opening kickoff to a closing whistle for either the 2 or 3 games that they have played so far. You get to see that Team X stayed at home and played Team Y. Team X was unranked. Team Y was number 5 in the country. Here's the final score. Here's the numbers. No names attached. And then Team X in week number 2 stayed at home, and they took on an unranked nobody team from the middle of nowhere, and they hung 70 on them. The blind resume for the University of South Florida would say on it that this team was at home for a top 25 win, 34-7, like not unimpressive. And then second week went on the road to the 13th ranked team in the United States of America, went into their house, which, you know, if I could put this on the blind resume, I would say, where expectations were very high, where a guy inside the top 7 or 8 odds getters for the Heisman Trophy winner was starting, or for the Heisman Trophy was starting at quarterback, and into a house that is annually considered one of the most difficult places to play an away game in all of college football. And they won that game. I think if this was a blind resume, South Florida would end up being a top, let's say top 10, but I've got to think top 5 or top 3 team. And I've asked this question a few times this week. There are a number of times where I will, hello friends, I will try out discussions, topics on friends of mine, on buddies of mine, because they love talking ball, right? Like if you're with the boys and you're just hanging out in the group chat or you're out at the watering hole. I went out to lunch with a dear friend of mine yesterday. Buddy of mine called me. He's like, yo, I'm going to be over in your direction. Do you want to go grab lunch? Absolutely. And we just sat down and we talked about real life when we talked about ball. And as we were talking about ball, I brought this up. I'm like, hey, where do you think South Florida should be ranked? And he said, oh, where are they? I said, 18. He said, yeah, I think that's fair. And I said, can I ask you why? And the answer that I got as to why South Florida should be ranked 18, the best answer anybody's given me so far is, well, come on, Rob, they're South Florida. Come on, Rob, they're South Florida. They're not Clemson. They're not Georgia. They're South Florida. And I asked the question that I will ask you now. If your response to South Florida is 18 and they absolutely should not be ranked higher because they are South Florida, does not matter that they have 2 top 25 wins. Doesn't matter that they have 2 top 25 wins. They just are South Florida. Then don't you kind of lose the right to say what happens on the field matters? If your response to why South Florida should not be ranked higher than 18 is, come on, man, they're just South Florida, don't you kind of immediately lose the right to make the argument, if you're an SEC fan, if you're a Big Ten fan specifically, don't you kind of lose the right to say, well, who you play matters? Because Boise State was a top 25 team. South Florida played them and they beat them. Florida was a top 13 team. South Florida went on the road and played them, and they won both of those games. I don't think, argue with me if you will, that's what the show is for. I don't think that there is another team in college football that to date through 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a week 0 in 2 weeks, I don't think there's another team that has accomplished so far what South Florida has accomplished. And when I've asked why aren't they a top 10, a top 5 team, the only argument I have gotten in response is, well, because they're South Florida. All right, cool. Then I don't want to hear the phrase, who you play matters, ever again, because it doesn't if this is the case. Take a break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. The Campbell Camels.
It's an amazing thing. Whoever thought of that?
The Campbell Camels might be my second favorite mascot behind only the College of Columbia Koalas.
That's a lot of alliteration. I don't know. That's a lot of something. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Cruz.
Morning, Cruz. Kane, Brian, everybody in the chat.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief. Now
Look, a hacksaw Jim Duggan tweet. Wasn't aware I followed him, but probably not surprising. Yes. Still, the thing that I wanted to do and did not do, and I will forever be upset with myself because I was going to buy the a fake Lion-O sword and go ask Jim Duggan to hold the sword up and yell ho and yell ho. No, it's crossing over. When Lion-O, he would go Thundercats ho, and I wanted Jim Duggan to yell ho while holding up. I think it would have been funny. People I was with thought it would be funny. But I wasn't sure that Jim Duggan would do it. So. He's been here a couple times and never had a chance to talk to him. I don't think.
Oh no, stomach issues again? Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools. I thought it was my stomach.
Yes, I've reached the point where we've interviewed so many wrestlers that I forget some that and it's like, oh yeah, we did interview them, didn't we?
Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Traffic this hour is sponsored by Moderna.
mNEXSpike COVID-19 vaccine mRNA by Moderna has arrived. To learn more and find it near you, visit mnexspike.com. That's mnexspike.com.
Week 1 is in the books as the football season is in full swing. No matchup in week 2 is better than the rematch.
It just how that comes into that dry. It just doesn't.
Oh, this.
Yeah, it just.
It's jarring to some degree.
It's your journey is brought to you by Hyundai. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event is going on now. It feels so right, it almost feels wrong. Don't miss out. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
It's time for the pro to get everything for the entire job, all from one partner. To get access to over 3 million products, including many products you won't find in our stores. It's time to get delivery on your schedule or next day on over 50,000 products. And time to get dedicated support on the job site or in our stores. From ordering to planning, we've got you. One partner, any job, all in. Ask about all we can now do at the Pro Desk. The Home Depot Pro, it's about time.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the Fan.
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM
Always live from the Free Odyssey. Now, the Infinity Sports Network. Listen on the Odyssey app. Search the Fan.
844-326-3663, the number to text or call this AM to be a part of the show. Texter said, Rob, why don't they just go with last year's final poll to set this year's top 25, that would be fair. That's from Tommy. Tommy, that argument has been made. I don't even disagree with the argument. But the answer is because in college football, like with everything in life, you're trying to sell people. You're trying to get people to buy. You're trying to get them to buy with their money, but you're also trying to get them to buy with their time and attention. College football is driven, obviously, by television contracts. Here's the reality. Everybody who is not Ohio State does not care about what happened last year. That's all gone. That's all in the past. What they care about is potential for this year. Can my team get it done this year? Nobody cares about last year. Everybody, well, not everybody. I am going to say, and I think a lot of people will, what the 2024 Clemson Tigers did is irrelevant. It's gone. The only thing that matters to me now is what can the 2025 Clemson Tigers do? And where do people who do this stuff for a living have them slated? So if you were to open the year when a lot of people had Clemson selected as a preseason national championship favorite, if the year opened with Clemson being ranked as they were at the conclusion of last year, number 14, it's not as sexy. It's just not. LSU v. Clemson in week 1, if we utilized last year's final rankings, would have been number 14, Clemson host unranked LSU. But what did we get instead? Instead, we got number whatever it was, 4 Clemson versus number 8 LSU. It's a lot sexier. You sell people on potential. This is not just college football. That's everything. You want to sell a cologne? How do you sell that cologne? Wear this cologne and you'll drive the ladies wild. You want to
High karate.
You want to sell jewelry? Wear this jewelry and the fellas will know you're a very, you know what I mean? Like you sell on potential. And if you start with last year's final rankings, you are ranking based on results, not potential. Now, if your product is wildly successful, then you sell on results. Ohio State sells on results. Ohio State is going to pimp all year, reigning, defending, undisputed, because they've got the result to do it. Nobody else is going to. Everybody else is going to sell on, we can this year become the reigning, defending, undisputed. Now, if you missed the last segment, this is all spurred on by the conversation that I asked a friend of mine yesterday. And after hearing their answer, I was like, you know what? I think this is an interesting conversation. The University of South Florida is going to the University of Miami this weekend. The University of South Florida has played 2 top 25 teams. They have defeated 2 top 25 teams. They knocked off number 25 Boise State in week number 1. They knocked off number 13, the University of Florida, in week number 2. So here's my question with South Florida being ranked number 18. If South Florida is ranked number 18 right now, and I don't think they will, they're like a 21.5 point dog in this game. This is the biggest challenge because unfortunately, I don't think that they can surprise Miami with Byron Brown the way that they surprised Florida. Florida had a week where they could look at USF Boise and be like, yeah, Boise State didn't have Ashton Janty, right? And it was on the road. It was at USF. They're coming to our curb. We're fine. We're good. Let's all go get ready for week 3 when we start the Southeastern Conference slate. And maybe they got caught to some degree looking ahead of South Florida. That's not going to happen to Miami. Miami now knows South Florida's no joke. They now know that South Florida has a guy in Byron Brown that had more folks known about this kid, could have probably gone into the transfer portal and earned himself a couple of paychecks with some zeros stacked on the back end of it. They're not getting caught by surprise. But let's say for the sake of conversation, the Cinderella season continues for South Florida out of the gate. Let's say South Florida goes down to Coral Gables, down to Hard Rock, 21 miles away from the campus of the University of Miami. And let's say the Mighty Bulls actually beat Carson Beck and the Hurricanes. Let's say Mario Cristobal, Georgia Tech's himself, the return of the Mario, Mario Cristobal goes out there. They trip all over themselves. Miami costs themselves the game. South Florida wins this game, upset on the road at Miami. Can you make an argument why they should not be listed as the number one team in the country at that point? Can you make me an argument? And you might say, well, Rob, they're South Florida. It's not good enough for me. It's just not good enough for me. You might say, well, even with 3 top 25 wins, they don't look on paper like the number one team in the country. Who does? Who does? Who's like clearing away the obvious number one team in the country right now? I don't know that there's an answer. And even if you want to lean into those two arguments, to me, that would kind of kick the legs out of from underneath who you play and who you beat and where you beat them matters. You would tell me that doesn't matter, that we are officially getting rid of that metric in how we value teams. What it would tell me is something that to some degree, I think, at least I have always believed is true in the landscape of college football, which is you get brownie points just for being in a conference that you are in. If you're an SEC or a Big Ten team, you get a bunch of brownie points for being in the conference that you're in. If you're an ACC or a Big 12 team, you don't get as many brownie points as the SEC or Big Ten teams do, but you do get more brownie points than teams that are in the Pac-2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate, or in the Mountain West, or in the, whatever conferences. You get more brownie points. If South Florida was to knock off Miami, and I got to tell you, with all due respect to our Hurricane fans in the audience, I don't know that there's a team in America I'm pulling for more than the South Florida Bulls this weekend. Could you, for two reasons. Number one, I can't stand the Miami Hurricane. And number two, how much fun is this show going to be for me on Monday when we come back if South Florida knocks off 3 consecutive top 25 teams, 2 of them on the road? I will come in here on Monday if South Florida gets the win over Miami. I will come in here on Monday and say anybody who does not have this team as number one in America, you don't know ball, brother. Like, that would be ridiculous. 3 top 25 teams in a row, 2 of them on the road. Why? And here's the conversation. Why?
Because first of all, they'll be beating an ACC team.
So what? Top 25. So you've
I
arrived at only
think-
SEC and Big Ten can win the Natty.
I think we all know that, there's Big Ten. You've said this for a while too. That we're heading towards super conferences. If you're in the Big Ten, the SEC, it means more if you defeat those teams than it would if you defeat an ACC team.
Well, for the record, they have beaten SEC teams.
Yeah, but it was just Florida.
See, I guess this is the problem: is there's always a special exemption.
Of course,
there's always a special exemption.
I mean, come on, it's South Florida. What are you doing here? Why are you inflating South Florida? They're not going to beat Miami.
If they do, I just said that. I'm picking Miami, but if they do, let's play like we're 88 miles an hour in the DeLorean to Monday, and South Florida went into Miami.
Say, if I was going to do that, I would do it the Sunday. But anyway,
South Florida went into Miami, and Mario Cristobal Georgia Tech'd himself, and South Florida walks out of there with a 27-24 win over Miami. 3 top 25 games, an ACC and SEC and a group of 5 win. 2 of those 3 on the SEC and ACC wins on the road. Give me the reason that South Florida should not be ranked number 1 in the country if they beat Miami.
they should be a top 5 if they do that.
Why
for
should they
sure.
not be number 1?
Because they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC.
I want to say a bad word. I want to say a bad word on the radio. I'm just gonna push the button.
Oh, like you've never said a bad word on the radio.
I'm just gonna push the button.
There we go.
That.
Sorry.
All right. Just in general, that. That's not it for me. It's not it for me. I guess what the point I'm saying here is, I already think South Florida is.
See, I kind of agree with Jacob on the stream who says they haven't beaten number 1. That's why I said I would put it in top 5, probably top 3, maybe even second until they beat the top, what's considered the top.
Wait
team.
a minute. By that logic,
Whether it was Ohio State, whether it's Clemson, whether it's I'm being hypothetical. Obviously, it's not going to be Clemson, but no matter who the number one team is, I still think it's really hard to supplant that team. If the number one team is there and they're winning by a lot, even though that team will have defeated 3 ranked teams, it's hard for them to supplant them.
So that by that logic, then
in this poll, that means nothing. If it happens later on in the year when the CFP is going, which does mean everything, that's totally different.
yeah. But here's the problem. So I want to say 2 things. Number one, the problem is you can say all day, well, the playoff poll doesn't reflect. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We all know that. We all know that the people in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee are looking at what the AP does all season long, and they're at least basing.
They're supposed to be watching games.
I don't disagree.
They're supposed to be doing.
I don't
So,
disagree entirely. And politicians are supposed to do what's best for the people in the districts they live in, but we know that ain't how it works sometimes.
I was gonna say, sometimes they do good things.
Now, let me get back to the argument that you made. It's hard to supplant number one. So what you're saying here is 2 things. Number one gets an entirely different set of rules from everybody else.
Yeah, that's why you want to be number one.
Number
because
2.
you get entirely separate rules from everyone else.
No, that is not how it should be. It should not be that way. This is the same argument of once you get to X amount of money, the tax code you live by is a different tax code
What
than everybody
should
else.
be and what is.
I agree.
I mean, you know.
I agree. But that doesn't mean I should just go, well, I guess I'll bend over and take it because that's the only way it is.
There's got to be a reason why you strive to be number one. And part of it's special treatment.
Correct.
I want to be
Lonzo,
number
here's
one
the
so I can be
problem.
treated special.
Here's the problem. By that logic, there are only 12 teams that can take the number one spot. There's only 12 teams that can beat number one. So there's only 12 teams that can take that spot.
So you're saying you want the playoffs expanded?
What the hell does it have to do with playoffs? Between here and November
Because
4th,
there's a 12-team playoff.
Between
and you went
here-
with 12. and
No.
Okay.
the only 12 teams that can take, by your logic of in order to be the number one, you got to beat the number one. Woo. The only teams who can do that are the 12 teams you play in the regular season.
It is a philosophy that a lot of us live by the way.
The second thing that I have is by that rule for number one, doesn't that mean that the only way that you can move up in the poll at all would be to beat a team that's higher ranked than you?
Right.
That's it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
South Florida just beat number 25
No,
and number
no,
13.
they
It got them
should-
to 18.
They should be higher. I don't disagree with you there. I don't think they should be number one, even if they were to beat Miami. That's I believe a separate argument. The thing that you're saying, they should be ranked above teams who have lost games. They definitely should be ranked higher.
I know we're against the break. Yes or no? They should be ranked higher than Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean they should be top 5 for sure.
So ahead of Miami, who they play this weekend?
No.
Okay, that makes them number 6.
No, we're talking
That makes
about
them number
if they
6.
we're talking about if they beat Miami. If they
Okay.
obviously they would.
No. So let's say today.
What do you mean,
Where
right
should they
now?
be today? You good with them at 18 right now? With
No.
2 ranked wins?
No, I think they should be 6, 7, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So put them at 6. Ahead of Georgia.
Yeah.
Ahead of Texas.
Sure, why not?
Ahead of Notre Dame.
I'll definitely ahead of Texas. These are games of teams that have lost games.
Okay, fair enough. I'm looking for where and why.
Yeah, we're just as far as that goes, we're on the same page. But when it comes to supplanting number one, I don't think you should be able to do that as long as number one is still winning convincingly.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we got a handful of texts that have come in, 844-326-3663. We'll read and respond to those. We got your water cooler cheat sheet, Lulu Kessin at 8 o'clock. We're working on Rashad Beard at 8:40. All that coming up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Here is a number 1 ranked sports flash.
I can handle that pressure. Here's a team that's not number one. The Atlanta Braves
God dang it.
dropped the third game against the Chicago Cubs 3-2 yesterday, losing the series 2-1. Chris Sale took the loss, giving up 7 hits and 3 runs across 5 innings while striking out 9. Atlanta had 7 hits in the game, going 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. One day after Ohio State head coach Ryan Day criticized the NCAA's move to a single 10-day transfer portal, LSU head coach Brian Kelly said yesterday that SEC coaches are unified in support of the decision. Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson has apologized to the fan he was caught on camera shoving during Sunday night's game at Baltimore. Jackson was seen shoving the fan back into his seat after the fan put his hand on the helmet of Jackson and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Jackson said he has not heard from the NFL about potential discipline. I don't know if he will. He probably should, though, shouldn't he?
Rebels fans, get the MVP treatment you deserve when you join Founders Federal Credit Union. Founders offers competitive rates, trusted financial tools, and unrivaled service to their members in our Duncan community. When you're going for a financial win, get a financial teammate that can help you score big. Visit a Founders office near you or foundersfcu.com to apply for membership.
Sorry for being quiet. I'm just gonna leave it hanging. I don't know. So I completed my psychological experiment yesterday. So there's a guy who keeps backing in, who's an employee close to my car. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move my car over one and find out if this is indeed he just wants to park in that spot or if he wants to park next to me. Now, when I moved over, the other person who normally parks next to me also moved over with me. And
What about
he's
this yesterday? You think that was a reflex response? They're just so used to pulling in next to you that they were just like, well, there's my spot.
well,
Like I have my spot down there, and I'm the first one here every day. So
Right.
like, got it.
So Lee, I'm going to say Lee, because Lee used to have the spot that I took, but I took it from him because I'm here first, and I think it's funny. So Lee may not be parking next to me. He may just be parking in that spot because he finally got a spot back.
Yeah.
Because finally I gave up the spot. So then this ain't about Lee though. It is a little bit though, because he parked next to me, and I don't want to go ask him. This is more philosophy than it is just going out. Why did you do that? I like to speculate. So there are three spots between my car and another car. So the question was, would this guy back in next to my car again? And he did not. He parked in the same spot he always parked at. Because we are people of routine. We like doing things, whether we know we do it or not. We like doing things the same way.
I think even people who say they're not people of routine are people of routine. Like everybody's going to have habits.
There's a matter of comfort to it,
Yes.
because you don't have to think about it because you just do that. And it's hard for me to park in that extra space because I'm also a person of routine, and I also gave someone their spot back who I've been taking for about a year. Also, in my smart car, I can almost get it up on two wheels when I hit that corner around the light post and go right into that spot. And I always speed up because there's a hill, and smart cars, you can get a little more speed when you don't know because you guys aren't driving a smart car. And Rob doesn't know because he's driving a Humvee.
For sure.
Although you could probably dump those Humvees pretty easy. Well, not easy, but you may say I'm weird, and you'd be right.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Life is wrestling. It's all everything's.
I said that to somebody
yeah.
yesterday, and they wanted to fight me.
Yeah, life is wrestling.
And I converted by the end of the conversation. They were like, "Dude, I know." It is very difficult in my brain to, I guess, accept might be the right word here. To accept that it was on this day, 24 years ago, that perhaps the most world-shaping event of my lifetime took place. September 11, 2001. And I want to talk about it only to bring you to another of what I think was one of the most world-shaping for me days of my life. You're going to hear, obviously, everybody's going to talk about today, and I think it's fair. I think it is a good thing for us as human beings to share our thoughts, our emotions with each other. I think that's what makes us human. And I think the ability to share thoughts and emotions, I think the ability to sympathize, empathize with each other, to understand each other is a really good way to also move towards compromising with each other in the name of progress and betterment of life for everyone. That morning, I was in math class. I was in algebra class, as a matter of fact. And as we were going through algebra class, the PA came on in the school, and Principal Bounds, Richard Bounds was our principal at the time, came on, and he said, teachers, please turn your televisions on to the news. Now, it was obviously later in the day than it is right now, but at that point, it had been, this is not an accident. This is on purpose. And what happened that day is we all sat in that class, and a bunch of 11th graders in my class sat together and tried to rationalize and understand, I think, what the hell was happening. And I think try to figure out together not just what the hell is happening, but why the hell is this happening? Why is this a thing that is taking place? Why would someone want to do this? Why would someone decide that this is the right way to handle a problem between people? So I won't walk through the entire day. We've got time for that. And I think that's something that's probably more beneficially handled on a person-to-person basis. What I will say is this. A couple of Fridays later, the conversation was going on. Well, over the next handful of days, the conversation was going on about whether or not we should play in the face of what had happened on September 11, 2001. In the face of what felt like, maybe for the first time that I can remember in my lifetime, I'm sure for many of you it wasn't the first time for you, but for the first time in my lifetime, I felt vulnerable. I felt in danger. I was very fortunate as a young man that I got to travel with my family with some level of regularity. I'd been on plenty of airplanes. We had flown places before. And never once had I ever thought something bad could happen. I think that was the first time that I ever really struggled with the reality that maybe the world is not as safe and secure for me and for my generation as we all thought that it was and that it would be. So then we started having the conversation, should we be playing high school football? And there were thoughts about public safety and security for everybody that would gather. A public football game in Okaloosa County, Florida, where I grew up, was the largest gathering of people you would find anywhere in the Florida Panhandle on any given night. Could there be issues? Is it a lack of respect to the victims and the first responders who lost their lives that day to go out there and clap and cheer on for high school football players scoring touchdowns? I was the sports editor of my local newspaper that day in 2001. Ms. Linda Ivanchek was my teacher, mentor, whatever she was. She sponsor of the school student newspaper. And so after I thought about it for a day or two, I told Miss E that I wanted to use my column space that I had in the paper. I wanted to use that space to make the argument that we should play football. And we should play football because at the end of the day, the one thing that the people who committed this heinous and atrocious act wanted was to disrupt who we are. They wanted to stop who we are. And I said, I think anything we do that changes us doing the things that we love, that mean the most to us, of which high school football is one of them, anything we do to change that is a point in the column of victories for the people who did this. And Miss E, who I still to this day have an immense respect and appreciation for, said, write it. If that is your opinion, share it. As long as you're willing to state it, publish it, stand on it, go for it. So I did. Either the next day or a couple of days later, I got a call into the principal's office from Richard Bounce. And he closed the door behind me. And he said, I want to talk to you about your column. And I was like, oh, I thought I was in trouble. And he said, I talked to the school board. We're going to play games on Friday. And I let your article do the talking. I let your article make the point. I read it to them. And we all agree it's good take. So we played football. I went that next Friday to Niceville High School. My high school, Choctawhatchee High School, was playing on the road at Niceville. They were a county rival. So I went. And that day ended up being one of the most, to me personally, important, inspiring days of my life. When we got to Niceville High School, the two schools had made a decision that to this day I think was one of the best decisions I've seen made by people in a position of authority to do such a thing. They decided that for that night, the first game back after the attacks, there would be no Niceville side, home side, Choctaw side, away side. That instead, what they would do is that they would ask Niceville fans and Choctawhatchee High School fans to sit together. Sit together. Half the Choctaw fans went over and sat with half the Niceville fans on the home side. Half the Niceville fans came over from the home side and sat with half the Choctaw fans on the guest side. The two bands took to the field together. They played the national anthem together on the field. And I, as a member at that year of the junior varsity football team, attended that game as a guest of Richard Bounce in my role as sports editor for the Choctawhatchee paper, because he said I was a big part of the reason they decided to play. So I got to stand on the field that game. And as I stood there and I looked around, and there was no maroon side and green side, there was just an ocean of green and maroon around the entire stadium. And as the band played God Bless America, played the national anthem, and the PA announcer read the prelude to the moment of silence we were all going to share, I looked around and realized on any other given Friday night, when Niceville and Choctaw, the two powerhouses of Okaloosa County and high school football, got together, there was going to be a lot of smack talk back and forth. There was going to be a lot of junk going back and forth. That was one of the schools that we had one of those legendary high school student prank wars with, et cetera, et cetera. There was none of that. There was none of that. Instead, what I saw was a bunch of people who were undeterred, who were determined to continue on with the way of life that we all love, the way of life we all embrace, the way of life we all celebrated, and refused to let a handful of people who hated us for being able to do so determine what we were going to do with our Friday night. And it was, to this day, one of the most impactful nights of my life, because I saw what was possible. I saw what was possible. I saw what could happen. I saw what could happen when people looked around, stopped blaming each other for problems, and started saying, this is who we are, this is what we do. And yeah, we're going to have disagreements. And yeah, we're going to have to come to compromises. And sometimes those compromises are probably going to make us give up things or change things or handle things in a way that is not preferential to us, but does so in a way where we can all continue to celebrate this life that we share together in this country that we share together. And there is nothing that I want more for us than to find a way to reclaim the feelings that we had those few weeks after 9/11. Yes, those feelings were spurred on by, caused by fear, trepidation, terror. But the feelings that fear and that trepidation and that terror inspired was probably the deepest sense of unity, harmony, and togetherness that I can remember feeling as an American citizen. I don't think I have felt it before that. I certainly don't think I have felt it since then. And unfortunately, me personally and subjectively, I feel like day by day we are getting further away from that sense of unity and togetherness that, and I don't know what happened here with you guys. I don't know if you guys played football the next Friday or not. I don't know what that discussion was like. I should probably talk to some folks and kind of find out like what was the reaction around here. And if you have a story, I'd love to hear it. Rob.Brown@thefanupstate.com.
If I recall, nothing was played. But again, it was my kids weren't old enough to play yet. So I wasn't as plugged in sports wise as I am now. So I hadn't been here that long. So I'm not sure, but I don't think so.
Okay. I'm curious as to what the sentiment and emotion around the area was in the days/weeks after September 11th of 2001. But what I can tell you is I am grateful to this day that Richard Bounds and the Okaloosa County School Board decided that the next Friday we were going to go back and we were going to play high school Friday night football because we needed it. We needed it. We needed not just normalcy. We needed not just to have something that was normal, something that we could latch on and gravitate to that was normal. We needed a sense of togetherness. And one of the best things that sports does, I think the best thing that sports does is it manufactures that for us. You may look at the guy who wears your rival's colors and go, yo, I hate your school and I hate everything it stands for, and your chants and cheers are dumb, and your band sucks, and your mascot's ugly, and your head coach is a moron. And that's all well and good. But I also think that deep down, we all understand why that person is wearing the colors that they are wearing, why that person loves the songs and the chants that we think are dumb, why that person got the tattoo with the mascot we think is ugly, why that person is going to defend their coach to the ends of the earth until they won't anymore. We all understand where that comes from. We all understand why that is, even if we disagree. And I think that this is one of those times that I hope that we can figure out how to transition our mentality from college football Saturdays to life in this country as in general. Look, I don't understand why you like the school that you like, but I respect that you do. I may not agree with, I've said for a very long time, I think the Gator bait, Tiger bait chant that LSU and Florida do is the dumbest thing in all of sports. What is bait for? Bait is to catch and kill the thing that you are utilizing. Tiger bait, the phrase should be Gator snack, Gator lunch, right? Like any of that would make more sense. Doesn't have the ring to it. It would make more sense. But you know what I do understand as a college football fan? Why it is that when you stand in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, Florida, and there's 100,000 of you wearing blue and orange, and that other team comes on the field and you start hitting them with Gator bait, Gator bait. I mean, I think your phrase is dumb, but damn if I don't understand that feeling. If I don't understand why that feels the way that it feels. Sports are incredible. And one of the reasons that they are incredible is you like the things that you like, the teams you like, the players you like, the coaches you like. You have the history you have with the sport, and it's not mine. I don't share any of that. I understand it because I have my own thing. And while I may not choose to participate in celebrating your team, your school, your coach, your player, your history, your accomplishments, whatever, even if I give you hell for them, I can at least understand why you celebrate those things, right? To me, I think all of us, and in a weird way, I feel like there is some advantage for us being sports fans. I think there is some advantage in that we, even if we've never really thought about it, to some degree, intrinsically have this knowledge. There is a way to fix the hurt that is happening in this country. And that way to fix it is to say, I may not understand why you are the way you are, who you are, why you are the way that you are. I may not understand any of it. I may not know it. I may not understand it. But at the end of the day, what I do have to do is respect it. I may not get it. I may not agree with it, but I will respect it. And I will treat you with that respect. When I go out to a bar and I see a guy walk in and he's wearing my rival's colors, the response is not to walk over and say, you're this, that, you're the other. The response is to go, I may not like that guy's background, school, colors, pro team, whatever the case might be. If somebody walks into the bar with an Atlanta Falcons jersey, with a Miami Hurricanes jersey, my first response is not over to get in his face and talk trash. And nobody should be. My first response is to say, I respect the passion. I don't like your team, but I respect where the passion comes from. And to let that person live their life as a Falcons or a Hurricanes fan. I think we as sports fans have an opportunity to translate that over into our day-to-day life. I may not understand why you live the way you live or you do the things you do. I may not understand why you chose the religion that you chose or the political philosophy that you have. I may not understand why you love who you love and it's different from the way that I love who I love. It shouldn't matter. If we respect each other for the fact that we are all people and we are all Americans sharing the land that we share, and we've only got one crack at this thing, I think we could go a long way. Take that mentality we take in sports. Let's translate it over to real life. And let's fix it. Because we can. And I think we, in the dumbest possible way, we that are sports fans, we have a uniquely intrinsic knowledge of what that will take and how it will work. So let's do it together. All right? When we come back, let's take a look at the weekend upcoming in college football. We'll look up and down the schedule. Who's on upset alert? Biggest games of the weekend, when and where they're happening. Breakdowns, upset picks, and more. That's coming up on the Rod Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Bad world.
All right, guys, live reading. We're back. Stay right there. Foamy. The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Didn't get to it in the last segment because I was busy making deep philosophical statements about life. You know, that's what we do here on the show. Poop jokes and deep philosophical takes. That's what we bring to the table. But it is 7:27 in the morning. You're all trying to kill time because we have a college football game on tonight. We have an NFL game on tonight. We're all just trying to kill time to make it to the weekend. Killing time, real easy way to do that. Talk sports. You want to talk sports? You got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on. You be here for this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworker saying,
You hear that? Start. Oh no, don't start.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
2 days in a row, I've
It's Friday.
screwed that up. I just,
It's Friday for us. We're gonna.
I've got nothing.
We're gonna chalk it up to it's Friday for us. We will be off tomorrow, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We will return on Monday. Water cooler cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know. Now, I am going to say this one's going to be a little different because all 3 items have at least 2 stories in them, so we're going to have to sprint through it. Let's get it. Item number 1.
I hit it, but it moved and I caught I just stopped.
From now on, I don't want the water cooler sounder. I went. To the NFL we go. A couple of
At least I
stories.
didn't go whatever that Will Smith thing is. Yeah, that thing.
This is the bounce back. So Will stop. Ravens Lamar Jackson, the quarterback for the I should have said Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. That's how words work. Has apologized for the incident that took place in Sunday night's Buffalo Ravens game, where a Bills fan leaned over onto the field where Lamar and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins were celebrating a touchdown. And you can argue whether it was a touch, a pat, or a shove. I think it was a shove because I saw it.
Dude, he did the thing where you pick your kid up and throw him in the pool.
Yeah.
That's what he did. It's more.
Oh, no. I'm talking about what the fan did.
Oh,
first.
okay. I was going to say.
The fan absolutely shoved DeAndre and Lamar in the helmet, both when they ran by.
Lamar did a blocking drill. That's what he did.
After the love tap on the helmet, a.k.a. shove on the helmet to Nuke and to Lamar, Lamar said, nah, dog. And he turned around and he executed the perfect downfield open field block, both hands up under the armpits, lift, and shove to the fan. The fan went tumbling backwards, we'll say into his seat. I really think it was more like 4 or 5 rows back in Orchard Park. So there was a conversation about whether or not Lamar Jackson will be disciplined for that. Lamar said yesterday he is not being contacted by the NFL about any potential discipline he may be facing. He said, I do apologize. He said, quote, it just happened. I got pushed. I'm like, what? I wasn't even thinking about me being out there on the field. My apologies to him. He also said, quote, just chill next time. You can talk trash and stuff, but keep your hands to yourself. I think this is handled as well as it can be handled. I think the situation is over. If you were a fan, do not make contact with the players unless the players jump into the stands. And then, if you want to help them up into the stadium or whatever, great. Like, what's acceptable and what's not. And shoving the helmet of a visiting player as a hometown fan is not acceptable. I have zero issue with how Lamar handled the situation that night, and I have zero issue with how Lamar Jackson handled the situation yesterday. My bad, but don't do that, jerk.
You know what? Lamar is going to get away with it because it puts the NFL in a position. If they discipline him, then more people may start shoving players or something from the opposing team to get them in trouble. So this is kind of, what do you do if you're the NFL?
You ban that fan from the stadium. Very
I know,
simple.
I know,
That's
but
really easy.
but still the player put his hands on a fan.
I agree. If you want to discipline Lamar Jackson, and to be honest with you, I would, although I don't like it, I would understand why. If you want to discipline Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to shove back on that like Lamar Jackson did. If you're going to discipline Lamar, though, that fan's got to get banned from the stadium.
Well, no, I agree.
You have to send the
But he
message to the
already
fan
has.
base that that's unacceptable.
He already has, I believe. But shouldn't Lamar be fined or something?
I honestly am fine with no discipline. I'm fine with it. I have zero issue with there being no discipline because as far as I'm concerned, no, players can't make contact with fans. But if a dude walks up to you and shoves you in the head, Smoke.
By the way, I have no problem
Smoke.
with him retaliating.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from the NFL standpoint, how they handle it, I don't know what I would do if I were them.
If I am Roger Goodell, I think I'm coming out today and I'm saying, we discourage this. Thank you very much. We discourage this. We are not okay with it. But at the same time, we understand. Heat of the moment. Guy celebrating with his boys. He gets shoved in the head. That's a reaction. Fans, don't touch our players, and our players won't touch you. Real quick other story before we get there. Now it looks like Brock Purdy will be out for at least a couple of weeks dealing with toe and left shoulder injuries. While it has not been officially confirmed, Kyle Shanahan said yesterday, quote, I think it's a long shot, end quote, that Purdy plays. Shanahan was asked whether Purdy might miss multiple games as he recovers from the shoulder and the toe injury he sustained in the Week 1 win over Seattle. Shanahan said, quote, it's possible, end quote. And finally, Malik Neighbors had a conversation with Coach Brian Daboll about his sideline demeanor after the two were caught on camera with an animated exchange. During the 21-6 loss to the Commanders this weekend, both Neighbors and Daboll said afterward it was the result of two competitors trying to win. Neighbors said he thought the energy wasn't right and the Giants were lacking. Daboll said he was trying to get Neighbors the ball. We've already seen Malik one time have his give me the damn ball moment. And the suspicion is that it was kind of the same boat. Neighbors was obviously being doubled and regularly tripled teamed in that game by the Commanders. And you're also dealing with a quarterback who is brand new to the team and the system. So the frustration boiled over. Malik and Daboll both saying, hey, look, we were frustrated. We were trying to win.
It's all about energy. Yeah, just finding the right energy.
I mean,
okay.
Be interesting if he came out and he's like, hey, everybody, I want to thank you for coming to my press conference. The reason Coach Daboll and I got into is because he sucks and I hate him. Like, all right, thanks for telling me the truth.
Why am I here? I'm here because I signed the contract. I got to work, but I got to work with that guy.
It's here because I got drafted, dog.
If you had to work with that guy, what would you do?
Shove him 4 rows back in a football stadium. All right, to the NBA we go for item number 2. Adam Silver spoke yesterday very publicly for the first time since the Steve Ballmer LA Clippers story dropped from Pablo Torre a couple of weeks ago. Adam Silver said that the NBA is launching a full and wholesale investigation, that their goal is to, quote, look at the totality of the evidence, end quote, rather than just the mere appearance, his words, not mine, of what was happening in this situation. Said that if discipline is going to be handed out, the burden of extreme proof is on the NBA to prove what happened, and that there was a salary cap circumvention, but that no discipline will be handed out unless it was provable beyond a shadow of a doubt. Also in the NBA, long-range prayer shots to end the first, second, and third quarters of NBA action will no longer count as a missed field goal attempt for an individual player. Moving forward, any shot from longer than 36 feet inside of the last 3 seconds of the first, second, and third quarter will be charged to a team missed field goal, not a player missed field goal. The reason being that many players have openly said that they have avoided taking last second heaves because when that counted against them, it brings your field goal percentage down. You bring your field goal percentage down, it makes it harder to get more money for playing basketball and being able to shoot the basketball.
Oh, it was about money. Didn't see that coming.
Hey, quick question. Can you list me the things that aren't about money in sports? Good job. You did it. The answer is nothing. There is nothing. There is nothing.
So let me have a little hesitation. But we are running late.
Yes, exactly. So now any player who shoots a 36-foot or longer heave inside of the final 3 seconds of the first, second, or third quarter will see that missed field goal charged to the team, not the player. According to Sport Radar, last season, 4% of shots taken in the final 3 seconds in the first 3 quarters of a game outside of the 36-foot minimum distance, 4% of those shots were made. So if there were 100, 4 got made. Based on tracking data, the only 2 players to make multiple of those heaves were Steph Curry, who made 4 of them, and Nikola Jokic, who made 3 of them. To the MLB, we go for item number 3. One non-Brave story here. Paul Skeens hit the 200K mark, strikeout mark for the first time in his career. Reached strikeout 203 last night while he fanned 8 in a 2-1 10-inning loss to Baltimore. Don Kelly said that he is not looking at removing Paul Skeens from the lineup, moving forward, but that his availability will be judged on a game-to-game basis moving forward. Skeens is expected to have 3 more starts before the end of the season, but the Pirates may throw him for none. Why would you burn out an arm when you are now guaranteed a sub-500 season? Over to Atlanta we go. A 3-2 win last night for the Chicago Cubs. The Atlanta Braves dropped Game 3 and dropped the 3-game series against Chicago 2-1. Chris Sale not making his return. He has made his return, but continuing his return to the Braves. 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs allowed. Did K9 through those 5 innings. Did give up 1 dong in that game before giving way to Johnson, Kinley, Lee, and Iglesias to finish out. They combined for just 2 surrendered hits and no runs. The Braves had 7 from the dish. 2 of those 7 came in runner in scoring position with a 2-4-7 showing from the dish with RISP. Only two extra base hits in this game. Marcelo Zuna had 1, and Nacho Alvarez Jr. had 1 as well. Now, the big Brave story. Brian Snitker left open the possibility that he could be back in the Braves dugout next year, saying that the team's disappointing 2025 has now him weighing a potential return. He is in the final year of his contract, 69 nice near years of age. He has managed the Braves since 2016, led them to 6 NL East titles and the 2021 World Series championship. Snitker said, quote, I've been doing a lot of thinking about it. I'm not 100% sure which direction I want to go. I still feel like there's some unfinished business, end quote. Obviously, the decision, if Snitker wants to come back, would ultimately be up to Alex Anthopoulos. I understand the Braves have been ransacked by injuries this year, but let's not pretend the Braves didn't get out before the injuries started stacking up to an absolutely embarrassing start. Snit, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done for the team. That 2021 World Series win was one of the greatest nights of my life. Time to hang it up, buddy. Like, it's just not, it's not it. It's just not it. And the Braves can't do another year of whatever the hell this year is. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up item number 1 with my biggest 3 games of the college football weekend, as well as picks on those 3 games. We'll also talk about some of the other teams on upset alert. We'll talk a lot of college football in hour number 3 at 8 o'clock. Lulu Kesson going to join us. And then in hour number 4, we'll set up the NFL week. And that's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, dudes and dudettes, going to hit the head. Y'all stay right there for me, please, and thank you. Is Dave Doran going to be able to hang on to his job? This is one of those games that will go a long way in determining that. He loses to Wake Forest as a 1.5 favorite. Then I think he's one step closer to getting the axe. We will find out. We got a few games tomorrow night as well. Indiana at home hosting Indiana State, favorited by a lot. The Colgate Red Raiders on the road at Syracuse. Colorado is at Houston. This line actually a little closer than I thought it would be. The Houston Cougars are 4.5-point favorites over the Colorado Buffaloes. The over-under, however, set at just 45.5. Kansas State is at Arizona, New Mexico at UCLA. Then we get to Saturday. Taking a look at some of the bigger games on Saturday, noon, right out of the gate. We are getting it started early with the Clemson Tigers on the road. They are in Atlanta, Georgia, to take on the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech. Clemson, by the way, if you are keeping track, we talked yesterday, 3.5-point favorite of the Tigers, 2.5-point favorites now. Enough money coming in. I don't know if it is. I've not taken I've not gotten to hear yet from our fine folks at the BetMGM network if this is late money or if this is sharp money coming in as a closer to game time decision. But the line has dropped a point. Clemson now just a 2.5-point favorite, favorited by less than a field goal.
We're picking that game today at some point, right?
We will be making our college football picks coming up here
because I'm hearing other hosts saying Clemson's going to lose. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I have found that the number of folks nationally that are picking Clemson is growing, but I have also heard, as is the case with friend of the show, buddy of the show, Ryan Horvat, who hosts BetMGM Tonight, which you can hear from 7 to 11 right here on this fine, very Odyssey station. Horvey is all in on Clemson. He's like, yes, Rob Brown, keep getting the people. Keep getting the people to bet Georgia Tech. Please keep giving me points to bet for the Clemson Tigers. So the folks that are still in are way still in, but the number of doubters is growing. Oklahoma, this one's interesting. Oklahoma is at Temple. Oklahoma, of course, coming off of a very emotional win over Michigan this past weekend. Next weekend, they start Southeastern Conference play against Auburn. Oklahoma is favored by 3 touchdowns and the hook. I do not think Oklahoma is losing this game. I will say I find it interesting. I find it as one of those maybe they get challenged game. Temple beat UMass to open the season 42-10. They beat Howard in week 2 55-7. They are putting up scores that you would expect big teams to put up against little teams. There's a couple of athletes on this Temple team. It's not a Temple. It's not a good team. It's not going to compete in the SEC. But as a road game, when you get this game wedged in between a top 10 matchup in Michigan and a top 25 conference opener next week against Auburn, could Oklahoma fall asleep here? I think the answer is no, because John Mateer is a dog, but you get the point. Wisconsin and Alabama. This game is really interesting to me. Not because I think Wisconsin's going to go into Tuscaloosa and pull an upset. I do not. This game is interesting to me because I think Alabama is. I think this team is going to dominate this game. They are 20.5-point favorites, and I'm taking Alabama on the cover. It is one of I think I've got 5 bets that I've logged for this weekend's contest in college football. One of them is Bama to cover the spread. Ty Simpson was 17 of 17 this past weekend. Granted, it was against a nobody school, but even playing a nobody school, to go 17 of 17 is pretty damn impressive. On top of that, we came in saying, hey, Kalen DeBoer might be coaching for his job, and so hopefully you're going to get the best out of him. Here's the reality. I know a lot of people don't look at it this way. These college kids got some damn pride in themselves too. And the last few guys that are on this Saban team, they do. The guys that came over under Kalen DeBoer playing for their guy, they're tired of hearing about how he sucks at his job. I think Alabama's going to cover up Wisconsin. Central Michigan is at number 23. Michigan, the Wolverines favored by 27.5. Nebraska hosts Houston Christian up there in Lincoln, Nebraska. No line set on that game. I think Nebraska's going to win that by 50. I think they're kind of in the same boat. Georgia, Tennessee. This is a game that I think if Tennessee was fully healthy, I think I would probably call the upset in this. This is for Georgia. And I said this on BetMGM tonight. I am picking Georgia to cover the spread in this one. The Dogs favored in this game by 3.5. And I'm picking them to cover that spread. Tennessee's not healthy. They're missing some DBs. They got some guys banged up on offense. They are trying to prove that they won the Nico Iamaleava. It's been a while since we said his name. Nico Iamaleava trade. And that Joey Aguilar, the former Appalachian State Mountaineer, is a dog. And he's looked like a dog so far. I think this is a game that Tennessee is looking at and going, yo, we can end the misery and suffering caused by the reign of Kirby Smart, first of his name. I think we can go get him. I don't. I still think a rebuilding year at Georgia is still going to produce one of the best teams in college football annually. I'm all over Georgia to cover it up. It isn't Tennessee, though. It isn't good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Texas Tech taking on Oregon State, favored by 23.5. I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on this Red Raider team. I picked Navy going in as my group of 5 team, saying, hey, watch out for Blake Horvath. Texas Tech has got a couple of dudes on this squad that are kind of same boat. Like, these guys could be Heisman Trophy finalists that you're not paying attention to. Texas Tech spending, if I recall correctly, more money this year in NIL than everybody that's not like Ohio State and Texas. Like, they're inside the top 5. This team's going to shock some teams this year. When we come back, Lulu Kesson of the Greenville News is going to join us. We'll check in with Lulu. We'll talk about what happened last week at home against SC State. And we'll preview this week against the Vanderbilt Commodores. I absolutely think South Carolina is on upset alert this weekend. And I think you better be careful, because this is a game that a guy like Diego Pavia is going to look at what is happening, is going to look at and say, I can put some respect on my name. I can get myself as an NFL look if I can go win this game. You better be careful about this Vanderbilt team. We'll get Lulu Kesson's thoughts on that. When we come back, we'll take a look at the rest of the college football slate. We'll make our picks for the weekend in the final hour of the show. We flip it over and take a look at the NFL weekend, as today is Friday on a Thursday on the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I will pick this every time, NA plus Sports Flash.
Thanks. The Atlanta Braves dropped the third game against the Chicago Cubs 3-2 yesterday, losing the series 2-1. Chris Sale took the loss, giving up 7 hits and 3 runs across 5 innings while striking out 9. Atlanta had 7 hits in the game, going 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Reports out of San Francisco are that the 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy will be unable to play this weekend against the New Orleans Saints, and that former New England and Jacksonville quarterback Mac Jones, who is still in the NFL apparently, is expected to get the start. Missouri quarterback Sam Horn underwent surgery to repair a fractured tibia in his right leg, which, hurts. Not according to reports, it does hurt. Horn was expected to split snaps this year with former Penn State quarterback Bo Pribula. Lulu Kesson coming up next right here on The Rob Brown Show. Be back. Have to get Lulu on the line.
Rashad is in, but it's going to be on the phone.
What?
Rashad is in, but it will be on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Off
Rumble
we
winner,
go.
Rumble win.
Indeed. Into the third hour of the Rob Brown Show. We are off tomorrow.
Sup, bruh?
So it is Friday on a Thursday here on the radio program. However, while it is,
It was a little bit louder than other things. It should be, though, right?
it's a goal horn. Of course,
it should be. Okay.
As it is Friday on a Thursday, it is still a Thursday. And at 8 o'clock on Thursdays, we take a metaphorical road trip via the wonders of telephone technology over to Columbia, South Carolina. We welcome in a young lady who is not only kind enough to join us every Thursday to talk about the South Carolina Gamecock Athletic Department, but also she does a wonderful job covering the South Carolina Gamecock Athletic Department. The lovely Lulu Kesson makes her return to the show. Good morning, Lulu. How we doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. We're fantastic,
Hi.
Lulu. It's a good day. It's a Friday for us. We still got a couple of days left until we get to the South Carolina Vanderbilt game. But before we get to that one, Lulu, let's get your thoughts on what happened this past weekend at SC State. First half was kind of a slog. You ended up having Vakari Swain bring a couple of punts back, injected a little life into the Gamecocks. They looked dramatically better. I don't know if I want to use the word different. I will let you tell us if something changed in the second half. Just your 36,000-foot view on that game. What changed from the first half struggle to looking more like you expected them to look in the second half?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think that a point is no matter how much a coach or a player says, like, no matter what time the game is, you have to play well. Like, there's a 2.5 hour rain delay. And I think that was an obvious factor. I say that also looking at the two other teams who are playing, lesser talent in how Clemson and Georgia both had rain delays and kind of had similar vibes in the first half. I do think South Carolina pulled it together and was improved. Obviously, there are a ton of overreactions from the fan base and a lot of thoughts on the offense as a whole, but I do think that it was a weird game from start to finish and definitely didn't look as clean as Virginia Tech week 1. But I think ultimately, like, South Carolina, they picked up a 38-10 win, and it's week 2.
That's fair. I think it's fair. And again, I don't disagree with the take on Georgia and Clemson. I think it is obviously difficult to get all jacked up for a game to then have to sit 2.5 hours and think you can just turn it back on. That's not really how it works. At the same time, Lulu Kesson, was there anything about the offense that you think was missing from the first half that changed in the second half? Or was this just a matter of it took the fellas a little while to kind of find the groove?
I think the latter, but I'm only saying that because I don't think that the run game looked amazing either half. And I also don't think that Lenoris was necessarily like displaying total chemistry with his receivers either. I think that South Carolina knew in the second half, it's now or never. Like, we're not losing this game. We're going to score. And I think that put a lot of momentum back in sort of their offense as a whole. But I don't think that I noticed, okay, in the second quarter versus the third quarter, these adjustments were made. I think that overall South Carolina lacked in some areas across the game rather than one half to the other. I think they just knew, okay, we had to score. And unfortunately, I think SC State just wasn't, good enough towards the second half to keep their momentum from changing the state of the game.
Yeah, I've said a couple of times, and I think this was true about Clemson and Troy. I don't really feel like Clemson beat Troy so much as Troy just kind of ran out of gas. On the flip side, and I know a couple of Clemson fans have taken exception to this, but just eye test subjectively watching the game, it didn't really feel like or as much South Carolina State ran out of gas so much as South Carolina just kind of started finding a groove later on in that game. You're not going to have that same leeway this weekend against Vanderbilt, Lulu Kesson. We know what this team is. We know what Diego Pavia is. We know what Clark Lee is. We know where Vanderbilt is in terms of trying to prove that like we're a team now. Like we're not your grandpappy's Vandy that everybody beats by 50 and it's a de facto bye week. So we'll go ahead and skip to that game now. What is your weekend, your overall preview of what this game is to South Carolina this weekend?
Yeah, I think obviously it's easy to say this is the biggest game of the season so far. I think this is an absolute statement game for Lenore Sellers. Everybody wants to talk about Diego Pavia, and that makes sense. He's had an incredible 2 games so far. Lenore Sellers hasn't necessarily. I think he looked really good against Virginia Tech, but I think the offense as a whole has struggled. And if he wants to be, I don't think everything Lenore Sellers should do should be on the basis of a Heisman conversation, but at the same time, he's not going to be in one if he crumbles at Vanderbilt. And obviously it's going to take an entire team, and his defense has to be fantastic as well. But as Shane, as Shula, as everyone's saying, like, they have to sustain drives and stay on the field, which is they did not do that against SC State. And if Lenoris wants to be considered one of the top quarterbacks this season, he has to meet the moment, because regardless, Diego Pavia is going to. He's a competitor. He feeds off these moments, and I think it's going to be a quarterback battle. I think that it's going to be 2 really, really high-powered offenses, and I do think South Carolina is going to step up. I get I've been saying I get traces of like ODU into Kentucky last year, and I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to blow out Vanderbilt, 31-6 like they did Kentucky, but I do think that they're going to acknowledge, a lot of people are doubting their offense right now, and I think South Carolina plays well when they're doubted.
That is an interesting thought, because it does feel like a team that, at least for the last couple of years, when they started to shift the paradigm to some degree of, okay, maybe this is a team, it kind of feels like they've come down a little bit. And it kind of feels like when they've come down a little bit and fans started going, okay, it actually just is the same, they turn around and they go on the road and they beat Clemson to end the year and make everybody go, oh, maybe they are somebody coming in. How do you think this team can maybe find some consistency there? Like, this feels like one of those games that, all right, you want to prove you've taken a step up. You want to prove that you are maybe not in the room with the Bamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, but that you have opened the door and are ready to take the first step in. This type of win, even if it is the best Vanderbilt team of all time, this type of win needs to be one that you're confident in and coming into the game. And I don't think a ton of South Carolina fans are right now. The obvious answer is just go handle Vanderbilt. But what do you want to see between the sideline to sideline, goal to goal line that makes you come back on the show next week and go, hey, they clicked, they found it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a good second quarter. I think South Carolina has played, on one end bad in the first, and on one end really great in the first. And I think that after the really great start against Virginia Tech, like, they kind of went cold. And I do think that the second quarter says a lot about a team. It says a lot about the mentality and abilities of a team. And obviously Vanderbilt is one that's you're going to have to battle for 4 quarters. They were down at halftime, put up 34 unanswered points. And I will say, this is not to take away from Vanderbilt. This is just sort of to put in a little bit in perspective, I guess. Like, I do think that Virginia Tech beat itself a lot in the second half. And I think that it's incredibly impressive to go on the road in Blacksburg and do that. But I do think that Virginia Tech waved the white flag a little bit. But going back to your point, like, I need to see receivers that almost look like, I don't want to say look like they want to be there, but that it does feel like the offense is just a step behind. And I'm shocked in the personnel that's been out there and who's sort of stepped up. I didn't expect, but that happens. But I think just key players in both the passing and run game have to perform well for me to feel confident, like, okay, this is something that can continue. They can have the same amount of success against Missouri, Kentucky, Alabama. And I think there's a lot of veterans that haven't done a ton on offense right now. And it's sort of now or never in my eyes, because I don't think you can gain rhythm by just starting to show up week 5. I think it needs to be something that starts from day one.
I don't disagree with that at all. I flash back, Lulu Kessin, to the year that Tim Tebow was at Florida, and they went on the game and they lost that game that led to the Tebow, I promise you nobody's going to work harder speech that Florida put on a plaque outside their stadium. And one of the critiques that I had, because while I am sure that your parents have probably just met. I had been on the radio like 3 or 4 years already. And one of the reactions I had to that Florida team was, I think that team got a little reliant on Tebow, right? Like, I think guys on the football field with Tim Tebow kind of got to the point where it was like, well, Tebow's going to go out there and win us this game, so we just need to go out there and, do whatever we need to do to give him a chance. Are you at all concerned that maybe there's a little bit of this attitude of, we've all been talking about Lenoris for well over a year now, he was a Heisman Trophy favorite, et cetera, that maybe there is some attitude of, hey, Lenoris got us, that impacts the team?
That's a good question. And honestly, that very well could be true. I haven't noticed sort of things in interviews or body language or things like that. But I do think that, especially with the type of quarterback that Lenoris is, like, he's not, he wins games sometimes with his own 2 feet. And you can't say that about every quarterback. He's not Joe Burrow, who can make an incredible throw downfield to a receiver that no one else could. Like, that's not who he is. And I think that when you have a quarterback who, exactly to your point, like, sort of has the ability to do everything what looks like himself, and that's all they hear, like, yeah, that could definitely be an issue. But do I know if it is? I'm not sure. But I wonder if, how SEC play goes, if I'll think more in that direction, because Lenoris can't do everything himself. He can't run in every touchdown. Yeah, he basically runs like a running back every other second, but at the same time, like, he doesn't want to do that. His whole thing is like, I want to prove I have an arm, things like that. And I think that there's just been, for whatever reason, like a little bit of a delay. And, that happens, not to make excuses, but almost every offense I've covered hasn't necessarily clicked from day one or week one. I was saying similar things last year, but I just think that with the challenge of Vanderbilt, it has to click right now. Because I even think against like LSU, South Carolina was the underdog. Like, no one expected them to like really win that game. So I think Vanderbilt's a whole different story in the sense that South Carolina, in my opinion, has to win.
Has this, and I said this earlier in the week, this team has shown two sides of it in both halves, in both games. Against Virginia Tech, you had the most electric opening drive of week one with Lenoris taking in for the touchdown. And then we had about 2 quarters of just kind of a slugfest against SC State, kind of the same situation. Didn't look great in the first half, turned around second half, looked more like the football team we expected. This, to me, Lulu Kesson, feels like the first game that can't happen. Feels to me like if you come out sluggish, slow, take a little while to get rolling, Diego Pavia suddenly pops 14 on the board in the first half, and you're like, now we have to change who we are because we're playing from behind. How important is it for South Carolina to have a better, faster start against Vandy?
Oh, it's absolutely vital. And I think that I point to the LSU game. South Carolina came out really strong. Missouri, they came out really strong. I just rewatched the entire Texas A&M game. They came out really strong. Like those are difference makers. And I think that especially in Williams-Brice Stadium, and you can't, in my opinion, you can't let a quarterback who came in here and said 2 months ago that this game was circled, do whatever he wants. Yes, he's incredibly talented and he's going to have a lot of success. I think South Carolina, something Shane says is like, we're fireproof. Like that means when Pavia is Pavia, you don't, you bend, you don't break. But at the same time, like you can't let Vanderbilt come in and set the tone on your own home field at night. It just can't happen.
No, I completely concur. So with that being said, I think one of the ways that this is pretty basic football stuff, one of the ways you keep Diego Pavia from scoring is you keep Diego Pavia's ass on the bench, Lulu Kesson. You run the ball, you extend drives. That is something, even in that second half against SC State, we didn't see a lot of extended drives. We saw drives that either scored or they fizzled out to some degree. Is there going to be an emphasis on the pure run game, whether it is face on, whether it is Attaway, whether it is working in, as I would love to see a few more design runs for Lenoris Sellers? Will we see a run-heavy South Carolina this weekend, or do you think they are still just going to be looking for that big play to kind of sink the dagger early?
No, I think we will. And I think that a big thing is that both Shane and Shula most of what they said about, this game and stopping Pavia is like, we need to stay on the field. And I think that South Carolina is incredibly realistic that, like, yeah, they have a fantastic defense who have let in one touchdown or allowed one touchdown this season, and it was the reserve unit. But, like, that doesn't matter because we need to score points. That's sort of the message that's been, very, very front of everyone's mind, clearly. And I think that I think that it'll say a lot about Shula's play calling abilities, to be honest. I'm not ready to write him off as an OC by any means. But I think a lot of people are hoping that they saw vanilla offense the first 2 weeks on purpose and that it's going to be a whole different ball game. And I think it has to be in a lot of ways because they're not going to win if the offense looks like it did the last 2 games.
I don't disagree. Was there anything that you saw, heard, checked out in the offseason that leads you to the belief that it has been a restricted playbook? I mean, that Virginia Tech game, we talked about not just the importance of going 5-0 if you want to be a playoff team out of the gate, but also how big a win in that Virginia Tech game was to make a statement. I'm not going to say that they did or did not, Lulu Kesson, but was there anything in the offseason that led you to believe that we are seeing a restricted playbook so far? Or is it maybe just playing to the talent that's available? Like, what is behind the criticism of the play calling through the first 2 games?
I think people are very concerned about something that Shula said in December that he had already sort of cleared up. But basically, when discussing how Lenoris can improve, all he said was on some of those crazy runs that he had a receiver open downfield first. In my eyes, I don't think that's wrong to say, but a lot of people basically blew that out of proportion and was like, oh my gosh, Lenoris is never going to run the ball again. Shula's going to make him just sit back and throw it. That's what makes him good, yada, yada, yada. And then in the bowl game, which was the first game Shula called, I do think that there were a couple instances I saw with my own eyes where I felt like Lenoris, I was like, wait, why didn't he just run there? Are those 2 things connected? Everyone started connecting them. And then about a month ago before the season started, Shula specified, all I was saying is that little things like his footwork can improve. And I'm his coach. I'm going to say what's going to improve. And Lenoris was saying the same thing. Shula was like, I never once was like, he needs to stop running with the ball. I'm going to stop giving, plays designs for him. I think that overall it's going to be different. And I said this yesterday, Dowell Loggins saw Lenore Sellers from the moment he got on campus. He believed in him. He knew he was going to be Spencer Rattler's replacement. He knew that he was going to be a star. That trust says a lot. And I'm not saying by any means that Shula and Lenore don't have a great relationship, but it's different. And I think that could potentially be a reason. When Lenore was going through the ups and downs of being QB1 last year, he had a play caller, he had an OC, he had Dowell, who believed in him from the moment he walked onto campus, who knew him like the back of his hand. Shula, that relationship is probably still forming. Although he was there last year, it was a totally different role. And I do think that might just be something that everyone's still getting used to. I could be totally wrong. I don't want to start a rumor that Lenoris and Shula aren't close, but a huge takeaway I've always had was the way of how close Dowell and Lenoris were. And I think a lot of people probably just worry because Lenoris is a certain type of quarterback that somebody like Shula, has so much NFL experience and is going to try to kind of tone him back. But I don't get that vibe at all. I just think that things aren't working out as a whole. And a lot of that probably has to do with players too.
Lulu Kesson from the Greenville News, 30 seconds, final score and why.
I'm thinking 34-31 South Carolina wins, maybe, maybe a 1 touchdown score. I think it's going to be really close, but I don't think it's going to be no one can score. I think it's going to be the opposite. I predict South Carolina does something just enough in the 4th, not like a game-winning touchdown, but makes a few key stops to hold on to a 7-point lead or something like that and wins.
I like it. We will find out, and we will talk again next Thursday to Lulu Kesson, who covers the South Carolina Athletic Department for the Greenville News. Kind enough to join us every Thursday at 8 a.m. You are the best, man. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the environment. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your weekend or week, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
You got it. Will do. That is the lovely Lulu Kesson. Texter says Lulu is the best. Love hearing her talk Gamecock athletics. She has some talent. You're damn right. She was only the best of the best on the Rob Brown
She's
Show.
watching film, dude.
No, she watches film. Ain't no doubt about it.
I just watched this game. I'm like, okay.
Ain't no doubt about it. All right, we got to run to a break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we talk a little more college football. Rashad Beer going to join us on the phone coming up at 8:40 a.m. So we'll check in on the Carolina Panthers as they get set to go on the road to Phoenix, Arizona to take on the Cardinals this weekend. We'll get you set for that. And then the final hour, it's a Friday on a Thursday, Armada Audio Assault. Whatever you want to get to, we get to in the final hour of the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
That next segment's going to have to be really short. Because this is that break.
All right, guys, we got a long break, so we're going to take just the break. Stay right there, BRB. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan of State. Texture said, Rob, the difference in upset alert between U of SC and Clemson.
Stop it. You give yourself away when you do. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Texas. You give yourself away when you do it, person.
I don't know why it doesn't bug me that much. Kills the wife.
It's because it's a Clemson thing, and they're the ones doing it. And yeah, absolutely. You just said it bugs the wife. If your rival is bugged by something, you're going to do it more often.
Do me a solid, and go look up the University of South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. No one calls it that.
Right, but you can't say it's Clemson thing. Clemson does it. No. They did it.
I can say that.
They did it.
I just said that.
Their social media handle is U of SC.
Again, I stand by my statement.
Right, I understand that, but your statement is wrong.
No, it's not.
Your statement is wrong.
But can you prove that Texter is not a Clemson fan?
That's not relevant.
That's who I'm talking about.
Clemson fans doing it doesn't mean that it is Clemson fans who did it. They did it. Clemson fans just went along with what they did.
By the way, South Carolina screwed up when they did that. We've already talked about that for sure. They should never have made that change. But Gamecock fans, real Gamecock fans are like, no, we ain't doing that.
My point here is to say, oh, you guys got to stop. No, they don't. They never got to let that go. You did it.
Texter, identify yourself as a Clemson fan. I already know you are.
That's irrelevant.
Go look up some random team off the internet and say you're a fan of that. Actually, that'd be pretty funny, but still.
All right, let's talk about the rest of that text. Difference in upset alert between U of SC and Clemson is Vandy has to come to Willie B at night, and Clemson has to fight the Engineers on their turf. Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I fully expect that Willie B is going to be it's going to be different on Saturday night. I fully expect.
I haven't been to a stadium with the LEDs. I'm just so busy I cannot go to one. And I know you've said how amazing it is. I would love to go, but I can't.
Yeah, I haven't been to Willie B yet, but I have done a game with an LED stadium, and it's a different level. And apparently they do they now have the projector lights where they can actually project stuff onto the field. Yeah, they projected last week. Unless I got fooled by the social media. Last week, they projected huge bright white letters when the lights were out at Willie B that said forever to thee. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of dope looking. Like, that's kind of sick. That's kind of nasty. Anyway, Lulu Kesson said it. I've been saying it all week. This has to be. It's not that it should be. It's not that it can be. This has to be a statement game for South Carolina. You had a statement game in week number 1 against Virginia Tech.
This should not be a statement game for either. This should be a gimme for both teams, for Clemson and for South Carolina. Should be a gimme. The fact that you're saying it needs to be a statement game means that there are problems. And I
completely disagree, because what you're doing by saying that is saying Vandy and Tech suck, and they don't.
If you're doing a drinking game about every time Rob says he completely disagrees with me,
you're drunk, like alcohol poisoning. Good luck.
No, you're already passed out.
I think your take dismisses and treats Vandy and Tech as if this is 2007. It is not. These are good football teams.
All right, so Vandy upset Alabama last year, but did they?
Yes.
I mean, how good is Alabama?
Yes.
How good is Alabama?
Well, we're about to find out, but they put 70 on the board this weekend. So if 70 on the board against a nobody team isn't good, then I don't get to say Ohio State is good, because that's what you guys did too.
Alabama undefeated? I swore they already lost.
Yes, they lost to a top 10 football team.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Texas did that too. Does Texas suck now? No, of course not.
Maybe.
Of course not. And on top of that, I think for me, I can look at what Vandy did last year, because you can say, oh, it's Alabama, and that's great.
Robin, it's Vanderbilt. I mean, you can play up Pavia all you want. It's still Vanderbilt, man. Come on.
I don't have to play up Vanderbilt. I can play up Clark Lee. I can play up Vanderbilt. I can play up a win over Alabama. I can play up a win over Auburn. I can play up a win over a lot of squads. I can play up the fact that they had Texas last year, and Texas was damn lucky to walk out of Vanderbilt with a dub last year. 27-24, damn lucky to get out of there with the win. Again, I hope, Lonzo, that Shane Beamer is not looking at this team with the dismissive attitude that you have, because that's how Bama got beat at Vandy last year. They walked up into Vandy going, oh, it's just Vanderbilt, as if you haven't watched Vanderbilt, because this is a good football team with a good quarterback that can get you.
All right, everybody, be honest. I have to say this. How many of you have watched a Vanderbilt game?
I hope.
I mean, unless they're playing South Carolina.
You do
how
understand.
Many Vanderbilt games do you watch?
You do understand that how many people watched them on TV has absolutely and zero indicator of how good they are.
This is Vanderbilt.
Okay. I hope Shane Beamer is taking it more seriously than you are, because if not, you'll lose this weekend.
Of course he is. He's the coach. I'm just talking about him on the radio. And it's last I checked, and unless something changes, it's still Vanderbilt.
South Carolina fans, do me a favor right now. Text me your thoughts on Vanderbilt. Do me a favor. Just text me, not the game, just your thoughts on Vanderbilt as a team. Are you more Rob, we're in trouble, or more Lonzo, it's just Vanderbilt? They stink. They suck. They've always sucked. And therefore, because they've been bad in the past, it must mean obviously that they are bad this year too, because that's not true. That's not true. All right.
Well, we'll see.
Here's what we're going to do, people.
Name me 5 players on Vanderbilt's team.
Diego Pavia 5 times. Let's take a break. When we come back, Rashad Beard. I know. I do that a lot. Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast will talk Carolina with us. We'll take a look back at the week 1 disappointment at Jacksonville ahead to week 2 against Arizona. Can they get it right, get it tight? Then in the final hour of the show, segment number 1, we'll do a little more college football. Segment number 2, a little more NFL. Segment number 3, we'll make our picks for the weekend, all up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Pardon me for just a few minutes, you guys. Ordinarily, we speak to the host of the Panther Nation podcast, Rashad Beard, on Fridays. But as we are off tomorrow, Rashad has been kind enough to jump up a day and talk to us today on a Thursday, because I got to find out where my guy is with his Carolina Panthers. A disappointing L in week number 1. I went into that saying, y'all, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be a squad this year. In fact, I've got a bet on them to win the AFC South. Rashad Beard losing to the Jags is one thing. Again, if I'm right and they're a squad. How the Carolina Panthers lost to the Jags. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Because I'm kind of numb to losing. Losing is okay. I'm okay with taking an occasional loss. But the how is what matters. And I was I think disappointment is an understatement of how terrible we looked coming into week 1. And a lot of people are talking about how Canellis handled the preseason and the lack of reps. It just did not look good across the board. And, we thought we solved a lot of our issues on paper, and just to see us come out flat, extremely disappointing. And I do think Jacksonville, they didn't do anything out of this world. That was a winnable game, and we just were not prepared at all, and it was embarrassing, to be honest.
Yeah, I get it. And again, I think that the loss is one thing, but you hit nail on the head when you said it's not like Jacksonville went out there and Travis Hunter was making circus catches and Trevor Lawrence suddenly looked like a Pro Bowler or anything. They just kind of play basic football. If I asked you to give me the one or the two biggest problems and take Bryce Young looking like first half Bryce Young out of that equation, if I asked you the biggest problems outside of that, what are you putting him on?
It's the same stuff, the same things. The top issue is the big plays that we're giving up on defense. The 71-yard run by ETN basically flips the game. And prior to that, you've got the turnovers from Bryce Young. He can't hold on to the football. He fumbles the football. You've got guys that, and listen, I really hope for the best for XL, but the inability to get 2 feet down on that play where you have 5 yards to get 2 feet down, that's completely unacceptable. We're in year 2. You've got to get 2 feet down. After that play, that's when Bryce Young has the fumble. So we're turning the football over. We're not protecting the football. We're missing plays that are there. You can see it offensively. It's almost doesn't count, right? We almost had Renfro on the little wheel route. If Bryce is able to set his feet and throw the ball a little bit further out and lead Hunter Renfro, that's a touchdown. You almost had the touchdown catch by T-Mac where he gets one hand out. Maybe PI didn't get called, but it's almost on offense, and we have to find a way to get that almost into a conversion. We ran the football well. I thought the outside of that, just the frustration of the inability to complete these big plays, and it's just. Yeah, so if I'm gonna say the top 3 things, it's gonna be defense, still giving up 100, 200 yards on the ground, the inability to complete these big plays, and we have snap issues also on the offensive line. Corbett, there's just a lot. I can go on. There's more issues I can get into, but we should not have looked this bad in week 1.
I do not disagree. Let me give you the thing that jumped off the page at me. And by jumped off the page, I mean, I saw it put on a graph, and I love me some graphs, Rashad Beard. Defensive pressure rate versus blitz rate. Carolina blitzed not as much as some teams did, but above league average. You guys blitzed on about 30% of the plays this weekend. The problem is you had by far and away the lowest pressure on blitzes. You ended up creating pressure on 11% of the blitz. The next lowest team was the Colts at 22%, twice the amount of pressures on almost the exact same number of blitzes. But if you guys can't get to a quarterback and disrupt the pass, you'll make Trevor Lawrence look like a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, bingo. And if you take it a step further, the pressures that we did get, they were from 2 individuals. You had DJ Wanham and A'Shawn Robinson. There's 2 guys that's generating all the pressures. If you look at the PFF stats, you have 5 pressures, 5 total pressures, 3 of them from Wanham, 2 of them from A'Shawn Robinson. there's nobody else getting pressure. And so that's where you turn to a Canales and say, hey, head coach, what about these young guys that we just drafted? You got Nick Scorton, you got Princely. Where are these guys? And he turns around and says, oh, I'm encouraging the defensive coordinator to play them more. Well, you're the head coach, sir. Like, please do more than suggest. And so that's where you get into these situations where now we're questioning the ability of the Canales to lead a team. Who's making the calls? I mean, who's in charge here, right? And so, and now, and again, instead of focusing on what's important, we're now asking and questioning the ability of our head coach. And so, it's just that's where we are as Carolina Panthers fans. We did not need to start the season this way. And again, I'm okay with losing. If it was a competitive game and we lose on a last-minute field goal, we wouldn't have these type of discussions. But now we're analyzing pressure rates and all these things because we just look god-awful.
So here is a question that I had after I saw that chart. One of the issues, you and I have talked about this a number of times. One of the issues that Carolina, I think, still needs to address, I think you've said the same, is at the linebacker. The problem is, and I know you guys are not exclusively a 3-4 defense, but it is the scheme that Ejiro Evero likes to lean into the most. The problem is with a 3-4, you are relying on your linebackers a lot more. You are relying on them and their ability to step up into the run or drop off into coverage as necessary. You're trusting them to be able to drop into coverage and be successful doing it. If we are looking at a team that we have all said the weak spot on the defense is linebacker, it kind of feels to me like, even though I have spent time in the past defending Ejiro Evero, if you guys don't flip it over and go primarily 4-3, this kind of crap might keep happening.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can talk about the scheme, we can talk about the talent, but Rob, if you and I can sit on this show and identify the issues, we all saw this coming. The inability of our linebackers, the talent level at the linebacker position, we saw this. We saw this coming from a mile away. And even with the safety position, Nick Scott also with the 71-yard run, he whiffs on the tackle for ETN, and we've identified these issues. The question is that why haven't we addressed it, right? You have to make moves to get these issues fixed. And I know, with Josie Jewell, it's kind of surprising. He had to, leave the football team for whatever reason, for health reasons, but you have to anticipate these things. I'm sure it wasn't just a surprise that he did that. You had to have signs on the wall that was going to happen or could have happened. And so you have to prepare for these types of things. And so we're just not prepared we lack talent. And so that's a bigger problem. It's all layered, right? You got Dan Moreland, who's the GM. You've got the scheme, right? We have to fix these issues. And unfortunately, it's week 2, and now we're kind of stuck with what we have. There's only so much you can do. You're not going to revamp the entire scheme and switch a scheme in week 2. These things are supposed to be prepared for in the offseason, and now we look completely unprepared.
All right, let's talk a little bit very quickly about Arizona. The good news for you is that Arizona went down to New Orleans this weekend, and they were in a dogfight with the New Orleans Saints. In fact, you go back, you look at that pass that Spencer Rattler threw to Juwan Johnson in the end zone that would have sent that game to overtime and would have done so with the Saints having the momentum. They were able to move the ball relatively well, even with a good Arizona Cardinal backfield, primarily because between Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara, they could get the run going to some degree. This feels like a beatable football team. It feels like a winnable football team, despite how high some people are on a Cardinals bounce back. How important to you is it for Carolina to rebound and at least be in a dogfight in this game, A, and B, do you think they can/will?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, we have to bounce back. I can tell you, as the representative for Panther Nation, it's not good. The fan base is not happy. Things will implode and go down south very bad if we look the same way we look as against the Jaguars. We have to be competitive. We have to make a complete U-turn with the way we approach this game. It was completely unacceptable the way we played against the Jaguars. And if they come out with a repeat performance, this thing is going to go bad. We're going to start calling for people's heads. We're going to ask for a coaching change. The Panther Nation is going to go absolutely crazy. So it's imperative. It's everything. We have to, and again, winning is not everything, right? Of course, we would love a win. But at this point, what we're asking for is for a competitive-looking football team. That's all we're asking for. So just be competitive, show up on defense. Let's stop the run. Let's try to at least minimize the run. I know they got a solid run game, but we have to find a way to stop the run. It's been, I think the Jaguars was the 7th consecutive game that we've given up 200 plus yards. It's completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. So we have to figure out a way to show up. You got leaders. Leaders have to show up. Derek Brown, these guys have to show up, not just as on the football field, but we have to show some passion. Our sideline looks completely dreary. There's nothing there, right? I'm watching these primetime games. I'm watching the Vikings come back from a great game against the Bears, and they are completely loaded. They're having fun on the sideline. Guys, we do not look like that. We look like a completely different team. We look like a team that does not belong in the NFL. We have to flip this around. It is imperative that this Arizona Cardinals game is competitive and we show up.
I completely agree. Last one, and we'll let you go, Rashad Beard. Panic button on Bryce Young, who had some moments where he didn't look great. I also pointed out that you had a couple of drops, XL. Like, I'm at the point now where even I am on the borderline of, like, he might not be the NFL receiver you need him to be. You might need Jalen Coker back to get anything going, but are you panicked about number 9?
No, I'm not. Listen, everything is not on Bryce Young. Yes, he did make some mistakes. Yes, he needs to protect the football, but he also needs to be protected. He had a backup left tackle in the game, so the protection was a little bit off. I think the game plan got off. I think, Canales needs to help out Bryce a little bit more. Let's lean on the run a little bit more. Let's not abandon the run. The receivers have to catch the football. Bryce has to be better. Yes, he is not above criticism. I tweeted that yesterday. He was not perfect, but I'm not hitting the panic button on Bryce Young just yet. But he has to be better for sure against the Cardinals.
Rashad Beard, host the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on X at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, head on over to YouTube, find the Panther Nation podcast channel, get subscribed, turn the bell on because the boys are live all the damn time doing work. Rashad, my man, I appreciate you bumping up a day. Thanks to you, brother. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Yeah, no problem. Panther Nation, hang in there, man. Keep pounding. Hopefully we have a better week this week.
Be all right. It's a winnable ball game. It's a winnable ball game. We're going to talk about that winnable ball game and the rest of the NFL when we come back. We'll do some college ball in the opening segment, some NFL in the second, make our picks, and complain loudly about the WWE, who made 2 really dumb announcements yesterday. All that's coming up in the final hour. But before we get there, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to the best 60 seconds of your day, Lonzo Sports Flash.
You're welcome. The Atlanta Braves dropped the 3rd game against the Chicago Cubs 3-2 yesterday, losing the series 2-1. Chris Sale took the loss, giving up 7 hits and 3 runs across 5 innings while striking out 9. Atlanta had 7 hits in the game, going 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. One day after Ohio State head coach Ryan Day criticized the NCAA's move to a single 10-day transfer portal, LSU head coach Brian Kelly said yesterday that SEC coaches are unified in support of the decision. Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson has apologized to the fan that he was caught on camera shoving during Sunday night's game at Baltimore. Jackson was seen shoving the fan back into his seat after the fan put his hand on the helmet of Jackson and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Jackson said he was not he has not heard from the NFL about potential discipline and probably won't. Was Cruz. Thank you for catching that. We can do the experts, stats and all that kind of stuff, but I really try to, as much as I can, give a fan perspective. Voice of the people. I try to be anyway. Maybe not all people, but some of them. By the way, Stephen, Rob Zoe sounds like, a morning show host on an easily listening radio station with a very, very deep voice. This is Rob Zoe in the morning. Now, please enjoy some Michael McDonald.
If you are facing divorce, call Cordell and Cordell today. There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell and Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. Divorce touches all areas of your life: your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids.
Oopsie.
So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on. If you are facing divorce, contact Cordell and Cordell today at 1-855-GET-ME. That's 1-855-GET-ME. 5580 Greenville. Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to
What's
find
up, Mac?
a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post
You'll see Rob again if he ever comes back to the room.
all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/.
There he is.
There he is.
There he is. You never realize how tall Orlovsky really is.
Is he? I actually don't know that I've ever known.
Dude, they rarely show him, and it could be a camera angle, but him next to Greeny looks like he's 4 foot tall. I bet Orlovsky's like 6'4". He's 6'5". So Orlovsky's 6'5". Wonder how tall. I probably won't say. Greenberg's 5'11". So, yeah. It's not like you standing next to Stoneman discrepancies, but it still is. I mean, my understanding, he was a very good backup, James.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Yeah. Rolling through the final hour of the show, rolling through the final hour of the week. As Lonzo and I will be off tomorrow. I love you. Tomorrow, you're only a day away. Saturday, I love you more. Just 2 days away from the college football week numero tres, my friends. We have gone over some of the big games so far. Here's a few more of the, if you want to call them highlight games of the weekend. USC is at Purdue at 3:30. The Trojans favored by 20.5 in that one. SMU on the road at Missouri State looking for a rebound, 27.5 point favorites in that one. Iowa State's at Arkansas State. Louisiana at number 25. Mizzou favored by 27.5. Big one on the weekend. The Bulls of South Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bulls are 2-0. They are not only 2-0, but they are the only 2-0 team that has wins over two top 25 teams in the country. I asked this question back in the first hour of the show. I will ask it again here in the final hour of the show. How is the only team in college football that has back-to-back top 25 wins, ranked only at number 18. And perhaps more importantly, though I do not think this will be the outcome of the weekend, I also did not think that the USF Bulls were going to go into Gainesville, Florida, and get a win over the mighty Gators of Florida. What do we do with the USF Bulls if they do upset Miami?
So you're going to watch this game because it's on the mighty CW, and I know you're anti-CW.
I am not anti-CW.
So you'll have to watch the sports leader of CW.
I am
this
not
game.
anti-CW. I am pro making easy, lame jokes on a radio station. That's what I'm pro. All right. It's fun. It's fun to make
I
jokes.
think all your jokes are hilarious.
I do too. That makes two of us. This game is interesting. I will watch this game because, again, I think if there is good news for the University of Miami, the good news is that USF and Byron Brown, their starting quarterback, who has been a dog for this team so far through 2 games, they should not be able to catch you by surprise. You should not be caught by surprise by this team. You have to know that this team is dangerous at this point. You can't be caught by surprise. Miami is a 17.5-point favorite in this one. But you also have to keep in mind that South Florida has a game-changing quarterback. I mean, if you have not watched USF Boise State, if you have not watched USF South Florida, or excuse me, USF versus Florida, their starting quarterback is a dude. He is their Lenore Sellers. Like, he is capable of doing just about anything that needs to happen with the football. He is dangerous. And he is dangerous even if you know he's coming. So I'm very intrigued by this game. So what do we do with South Florida if South Florida wins this game? If South Florida is 3-0, if South Florida is 3-0 with 3 top 25 wins, 2 top 13 wins, 1 top 5 win, what do we do with the South Florida Bulls? I have already said, I think that this team is ranked disrespectfully low for what they have accomplished so far this year. There is not another team that has accomplished. There's not another team, I don't believe, that has had the opportunity to accomplish this, because I don't believe another team has played 2 top 25 teams. But there is not another team who has accomplished what South Florida has accomplished so far, and I do not feel that they have been rewarded for what they have accomplished so far. So the question for me is, again, where do they deserve to be now? Is 18 fair? Because I don't think it is. I would say right now that South Florida at 18 deserves to be ranked ahead of Ole Miss, deserves to be ranked ahead of Texas A&M, deserves to be ranked today ahead of Tennessee. And before you hit me and you go, wait a minute, Rob, teams like Tennessee, yeah, they haven't played anybody yet. They played Tennessee played, gosh dang it now, but East Tennessee this past weekend. And they opened up against Syracuse, who, again, like, Syracuse isn't a bad team, but they're damn sure not a good team. Tennessee hasn't played anybody, but they have hung 45 and 72 on the board. Yeah, and that's got to be talked about. But again, South Florida's played 2 top 25 teams, and they hung 34 and gave up 7 to Boise State in the opener, and game number 2 of their slate in 2 games against 2 top 25 teams was on the road at a place that is annually voted one of the most difficult places to go on the road and win. I think they should be ahead of Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee, Iowa State, but Iowa State being 3-0 with a ranked win. I think they should be slotted somewhere, if at lowest, somewhere around South Carolina at 2-0. And honestly, I think they could be ranked ahead of South Carolina. I would say I would slot them somewhere around 9-10, around Illinois, Florida State. I could make the argument they deserve to be higher than that. I could also make the argument Florida State and Illinois should both be ranked ahead of 0-1 Notre Dame. I can make the argument Illinois and Florida State should both be ranked ahead of 1-1 Texas, right? Like how is Texas at 1-1? How is Notre Dame at 0-1, who didn't play past weekend? How are they ahead of Illinois? How are they ahead of Florida State? How are they ahead of South Carolina? I genuinely don't know. The point that I'm making here is I appreciate the College Football Playoff Selection Committee telling us every year that that other polls, which of course means the AP and coaches polls, that other polls do not impact the way that they vote. But we all know that that is, as much credit as I can give them, likely a stretching of reality. But what if USF does knock off Miami? So that game's very interesting to me coming up this weekend. Mississippi State back at the crib taking on Alcorn State later on in the day. Florida at LSU. I find this game very interesting. And I find this game very interesting for a few reasons. Number one, Billy Napier is now the coach in this game that is coaching for his job. The Florida fans are jumping off the Billy Napier ship as it floats on or takes on water, I guess, in this particular metaphor. It is now Billy Napier playing or coaching for his job with a bunch of guys that, if you will remember, when he took the job at Florida, he brought some of his guys with him, and just about everybody on the roster is now a Billy Napier guy. On the flip side, I do wonder about LSU. This is a team that rolled up into Clemson wearing shirts before game one started that said 1-0. Is LSU a team that could get a little high on their own supply? Is LSU a team that could start reading the press clippings with people who have started to say, I think this team might be a for real title contender? I think this team might finally be the year that Brian Kelly got it right. I am super interested in this game. LSU favored by a touchdown in the hook. I am super interested in this game because if these two teams start reading the press clippings, everybody piling on Florida after the home loss to USF, and if USF is indeed a good football team, if LSU players started reading the hype with folks in the talking media starting to say this team is a legitimate title contender, I wonder if they are both paying attention to the news. Could this game flip-flop on its head? Could Florida turn around, rebound off the loss to USF and go down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana and knock off the mighty Gators of Florida? I'm interested in that one. Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's only played one game. They lost it on the road at Miami. They are at home for this matchup, but Mike Elko's got the Aggies at number 16 in the poll. The Aggies haven't really played anybody yet, whereas Notre Dame has in going down to Coral Gables to take on the Canes, but again, lost that game and looked good, but certainly not great against Miami. This is a signature game opportunity for Mike Elko, but it is also a signature game opportunity for Marcus Freeman. Jeremiah Love was non-existent in the loss to Miami. That was a dude expected to be a skill position non-quarterback invited to the Heisman Trophy celebration at the end of the year. He was, if I recall correctly, one of the top three with only Ryan Williams out of Alabama and Lonzo's wide receiver, whose name I'm freaking blanking on right now. That guy, you know what I'm talking about, Jeremiah.
Let's go say.
Yeah.
There's so many wide receivers from.
But there's only one who's a Heisman finalist right now.
Okay.
So Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, the third favorited non-quarterback in the Heisman race. And Jeremiah Love was, frankly, just MIA in that game. Is this a game that they can get it right? On top of that, Mike Elko has put in work, upgrading the defensive line, upgrading the run stop defense. This game might be a slugfest. Notre Dame favored by 6.5. I think that number's too big. I think it should be probably Notre Dame by like 4.5, maybe 3.5. I think touchdown in the hook is the lowest I'd go, but I'm real in on that game. 7:30 p.m., Vanderbilt, South Carolina. We all know about that one. We talked about it a little bit earlier. South Carolina now favored by 4.5 in that game. I saw it as high as 5.5, which means that whether it is late casual money or whether it is early sharp money, the money is coming in on Vanderbilt right now with that line moving the way that line has moved. A lot of folks very high on the doors to go into South Carolina. And that is a direct result, South Carolina fans, of both of your games. It is a direct result of taking time to get it going and finish off Virginia Tech, followed by Vandy going to Virginia Tech the next weekend and dominating that football team. It is a result of, we can blame it on the rain delay. We can blame it on whatever you want to blame it on. It is a result of.
You got to blame it on something.
What could we blame it on? I mean, they sat in the locker room for 2.5 hours. What could we blame it on?
Probably blame it on the rain.
I think we could blame it on the rain that was falling. Either way, slow start against SC State. Some folks are starting to go. Maybe the media darling team isn't quite as good as we gave them credit for. This is why this is your statement game. Keep in mind, also a statement game for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Utah's at Wyoming at 8 o'clock. Duke at Tulane at 8 o'clock. Navy at Tulsa. Navy favored by 13.5 in that one. Minnesota at Cal starts at 10:30. BC at Stanford, same time. Texas State is Arizona State at 10:30. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Portland State at Hawaii kicks off at midnight. Cinderella football, baby. Midnight football. Your boy is 1,000% going to be up until 3:30 in the morning Sunday night.
Yeah, we'll be watching something else, which we'll be talking about in the next segment.
We sure will, because coming up in the next segment, a segment that I have literally never once in my life forgotten and would never have the audacity to do so. The WWE, and I'm assuming we're going to talk about both.
Probably not, but you are going to take away some with the X stuff. But
that's okay, because I think it is worth talking about. Because it is worth talking about.
There's a big fight this weekend.
There is. Crawford Alvarez, looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, the WWE made two major announcements yesterday. One of them very dumb. The other one very, very, very dumb. Number one, I'd like to welcome you all to Daytime WrestleMania.
Why don't you save it for like the next segment?
Oh, I am gonna tease it. Welcome to Daytime WrestleMania in 2027, because WrestleMania is going international to the worst possible place. We'll tell you where in the reaction to that. And the C some letter O of TKO made a statement yesterday that I went, dude, what are you doing? How dumb can you possibly be? Some people need to not have microphones, and you are one of them. We'll get to as much of that as we can, because up next, fight up with the great Malonzo right here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. That was fortuitous.
Complete coincidence.
All right, guys, going to set up for Fight Club. We are BRB.
So I didn't have those things that you wanted to talk about because I wanted to talk about more positive things. So last I checked, your name is on the show. So if you would like to talk about those things first, let's talk about those
All
things.
right, I'll knock them out quick. So 2 announcements yesterday from the WWE. The first one is one that, well, actually, really, they're both one that impact, I think, every wrestling fan. The first one is that in 2027, WrestleMania is going abroad. It will be hosted for the very first time outside of the continent of North America. And it is because it is going to Saudi Arabia. I cannot begin to describe how much I hate this. I don't mind WrestleMania going abroad. If it was going to England, if it was going to France, if it was going to Germany, if it was going to Scotland, I'd actually be all on board because those fans are absolutely white hot electric. And to do the biggest of the big, I'd have zero problem with that. I am well aware that wrestling is now an international industry. It is not ours anymore. I mean, it's ours in that we made it, but it is now an international event, sport, whatever you want to call it. And of course, if you are going to send it international, to send it to the place that is only getting it because of blood money is gross and disgusting, and I absolutely despise every fiber of it. However, that wasn't even.
Things usually go to the highest bidder. I mean, that's how, we talked an awful lot about how much money actually buys, and
there is I think I spot.
I understand all the things that you dislike about this, but one of the things you probably dislike about it for sure is time of day.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I thought you'd be upset with it being on.
Do not care if it's in the middle of the day. Honestly,
I'm good with it being on.
Yes,
in the middle of the day.
I do not care if it starts at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Then on the Sunday WrestleMania, I don't have to decide, am I going to stay up for this main event and be worth nothing on Tuesday?
I don't even care about that. If you want to watch WrestleMania, your weekend revolves around WrestleMania. It doesn't matter if it's at 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning, you're going to watch it. What I care about is where. What I care about is the country that got it and the reason that they got it. I do not like that at all. I find it gross. Now, the reason that it is going there, as Alondra just brought up, things go to the highest bidder. TKO's Mark Shapiro announced yesterday that WWE will be, once again, raising ticket prices moving forward. Their chief operating officer, their COO, said WWE is not where the UFC yet is on ticket yield. We have our work to do there. And here's a statement that got a lot of people very, let's say, upset. Quote, "We know we have a lot of room there because Vince McMahon was primarily pricing tickets for families and wasn't totally focused on maxing the opportunity there. Now that we've seen what we can do with UFC, we're replicating that in terms of ticket yield and holding back in advanced sales when it comes to on location and the WWE side, and it's working very well. My dude just grabbed a mic and said, with his whole chest 10 toes in the sand, as even somebody who has said to you every year, stop calling me and complaining about Falcons or Saints or Panther ticket prices. At the end of the day, the people in charge don't care whose butts are in seats. They care that butts are in seats. I still find the absolute stones to say, well, VKM used to price tickets so that families can go. We don't want to do that anymore. All right. We don't want to price it to where you can bring your kids. We don't care about that anymore. All we care about is how many tickets can we sell for the highest price. I don't care. Saying out loud, we do not care that your kids can't come to shows anymore as long as we're making the most possible money. I told you it was going to happen. I just didn't think they would actually have the rocks to actually say, this is what we are doing. Screw you bringing your kids to shows. We need to max the profits. Congrats, you got what you wanted.
All right. How soon will we see this affect attendance?
A texter texted me just a handful of minutes ago and said, how about that TKO? No more Vince-friendly ticket prices. Shock SmackDown is $20 more a ticket than Raw a few months ago. And those tickets were almost double the cost of Raw's last year. The greed is insane. Never thought I want Vince back for any reason. I'll be clear. I don't want Vince back. I just want somebody else who is going to have some level of, it might cost us a little bit, but we will keep the product family friendly. The answer, great one, is literally right now. It is literally happening
Here's
already.
The thing, the market dictates. We'll find out if people are so annoyed by the prices that they don't go, well, they'll be forced to drop them. But do you think that's going to happen?
No, I do not. But it's going to be. It's going to be
the popularity right now. I don't know.
I understand, but here's the thing. You know what it's going to turn into? It is going to turn into 2 Super Bowl style events a week. Zoe, you and I can't afford to go to Raw anymore. All the people downtown who don't really care about wrestling, but like, hey, this is a thing. Let's go enjoy and have a little fun. I'll drop $300 to sit in the rafters of the well. They now get the seats that you and I, who have loved this for a very long time,
Our
we don't
entire
get to
lives,
participate
yes.
anymore.
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree.
I don't mean to. I'm going to pull the veil back here, and I hope it's not going to get me in trouble long term. I didn't go to NXT last week. Not because I didn't want to, not because I didn't have Friday off, but because I can't spend $80 on an NXT ticket. I love them. I'm glad that they gave us Ricky Saints. That was an awesome interview. I will continue to promote WWE. I will still love professional wrestling. But based on this statement, Zoe, I'm going to keep it a buck. Unless something amazing happens in my career in the next handful of years, I'm probably done going to wrestling shows for a little while because Raw tickets are now going to look like Money in the Bank tickets. Money in the Bank tickets are now going to look like WrestleMania tickets. And WrestleMania tickets are now unavailable because they're in Saudi Arabia because they can't get enough money. But when they do come back to the States, let's keep it a buck. WrestleMania tickets are going to cost the same as Super Bowl tickets. That's not an exaggeration. That's literally what's about to happen.
To me, I thought they already would. You already were that expensive because you've been to WrestleMania. I never have. It's been fairly close enough to drive to, but because of prices, I just couldn't go.
Yeah, I've gone to 2 of them, and I'm going to keep it a buck. Like I spent, if I recall correctly, WrestleMania 30 and 30. What was the other one in New Orleans? 35, I think. I went to both of them. WrestleMania 30, I think my tickets were like $95, $100 a pop to sit in the middle bowl. WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 35, my tickets were like $200 to sit in the same spot. And I was willing to do it. It's WrestleMania. How many of these am I going to go in my
That's
lifetime?
what I was
Fine.
going to say. If you really want to do it, you'll do it.
But
the fact
that's
that you're
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I know.
When Monday Night Raw comes to town, if I'm looking at $250 to go to Raw, no, I'm just going to stay at home. That's going to buy me some good steak.
My opinion is skewed a little bit because I don't like going to live events too much anymore. And I don't know if it's an age thing, it's a weight thing, whatever it is. I just don't like going to live events as much as I do watching it on my TV. And as long as it's still on my TV and at a time where I can watch it, until the product goes away or goes down to the point where they see that raising the prices is a problem, this is how it's going to be.
I get it. I understand. I am a full understander of if people are willing to pay, you take the money, and I get it. I think it's just a matter of getting kicked in the nads of them literally saying, yeah, we always had ticket prices that were family friendly. We're not doing that anymore. You got kids you want to make love wrestling? Hope they enjoy watching on TV because you're not bringing them to shows anymore. We got too many upper management folks who need their Christmas bonus.
You know what? But if you want to see wrestling live and for cheap, there are plenty of local wrestling organizations out there that you can go and check
100%.
out.
I will be 1,000% participating in more local indie wrestling now because that's A, what I can afford, and B, because I'd be a damn good valet and manager. If any local indie companies are listening and you got a wrestler that somebody needs a manager, holler at your boy. I will show up tomorrow in kayfabe, ready to roll, heel face, and I'll take bumps. Let's do it.
Dude, I don't know about you taking bumps.
By the way, very loudly, I know that bumps means one thing in a particular culture. Bumps means something totally different in wrestling. Let's go to your stuff.
What are you going to do?
I tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to take bumps. All that other stuff you said you're going to do, you do that. If you take bumps, you will hurt yourself. I've seen you getting out of your chair. I don't care how much weight you've lost. You're getting older. You need to think about that.
Zoe,
there comes a time, and it sucks when you realize I can't do that anymore.
You know what? At some point, you just got to realize there's a cost, a sacrifice that comes with being a great showman.
You lost your shot at your bump card. It's gone. All right, next week, NXT Homecoming. I don't know if you've noticed this. To me, NXT is the number 2 promotion right now. I get it's a part of WWE. It's the number 2 promotion to me because the wrestling is great. And it stopped doing that 2.0 crap a long time ago where they were the bye-bye events. It is a show, and it's a good show. The matches are excellent. Next week, NXT Homecoming. Here is the card for next week so far. Rhea Ripley, Stephanie Vicor, and Tiffany Stratton versus Fatal Influence.
There's a picture of the 3 of them standing in the ring together, and I can title that picture Rob's Types.
You can ask Booker T. Apparently it's his types too.
I got popped my neck.
Yeah, that's what he said. Fatal Influence, not hard to look at either. All right, Ethan Page versus Tyler Breeze, who has made a return.
Oh my God, it's Tyler.
Exactly, for the NXT North American Championship. By the way, he got let go and then he got brought back. He's just been doing a bunch of video stuff on Up, Up, Down, Down and things like that. So I think he's been a part of WWE for quite some time under the new regime. DIY has returned to NXT to take on Trick Williams and his partner, Carmelo Hayes. I'll just swear it's going to happen. Carmelo is he's gonna mess Trick over again.
Probably, but
or
also,
will Trick do it?
But also,
Trick Mello gang.
I want nothing more for them to just do a Ciampa turns on Gargano angle again for no reason.
Oh, they brought it up. They brought it up in their confrontation in the ring.
Man.
All right, NXT champion Obafemi and Ricky Saints will appear on the Grayson Waller effect. So Grayson Waller is coming back down there to do a Grayson Waller effect. I'm guessing it will end in a fracas of some sort.
Stop it.
I know.
Stop
I
it.
know.
No chance.
I'm really negative when it comes to these things.
Yeah,
but yeah.
come on, man. It's like that in contract signings. That never happens.
Yeah, I know. And I'm guessing at some point someone will say his name and Joe Hendry will show up on the NXT Homecoming. This latest one, he like tore down the wall like the Kool-Aid
So
man.
good.
It was
so good.
It was really good.
So
all right.
good.
My question for you, and I know what you're going to say, and I already kind of brought this up. NXT better than TNA and AEW right now?
Better than T.
By the way, I watched AEW last night, and I get there in a famous arena, but that crowd, I mean, it's like, whoa. Am I watching TNA? Am I watching NXT because of the crowd size? It was not. It was, if you have been away from AEW for a while, like I have, and then go back and try and watch that, you're like, oh, what happened? And then I realized where they are. But still,
yeah, I don't care. I like as Ricky Saints told us in our interview with him last week. Like I like the small, intimate arenas. I think they add something to the show. More importantly, I think the crowd is more invested in a spot like that. So that whatever, it doesn't bother me. I'm gonna say AEW has like 4 or 5 really bright spots right now. Like having Christian and Edge back in the ring together is a really bright spot. Anything Adam Hangman Page is doing is a really bright spot.
Danielson on the announce team so far struggle, and I guess Tony's gone. I mean, or he's just not doing that anymore.
Well, it's Jag season. He's got a football team to run.
No, not Tony Khan. I'm talking about friend of the show, Tony Schiavone.
Yes. No, I think it's become kind of a spot where AEW, when AEW started, the whole take on it for me was always AEW is for people who appreciate wrestling more than story, and WWE is for people who appreciate story more than wrestling. And I think we had a little while where both of those entities were kind of starting to meet in the middle a little bit. And now I think we're starting to go back the other way. I think the WWE is moving back over to, we are very story heavy and you're going to get some wrestling. And AEW is going back to, we want to put the best wrestlers in the ring together against each other, and we'll just concoct some stories to make that happen.
I get all that, but the match I watched was Hangman Page versus Josh Alexander, and Josh Alexander was horrible. I mean, it was missed spots right and left, and it's just like, and I ain't blaming that on Hangman. I'm blaming that on Josh Alexander.
Sure.
All right, there is a big event going on for free. Well, if you pay for Netflix tomorrow night, or Saturday night rather, starting at 9:00. So the main card starts at 9:00 for boxing. There is an undercard. In the undercard, there's only one heavyweight match. That's it, and none on the main card. And I don't know hardly any of these people, but my exposure to boxing is when I see something like this on Netflix, like Katie. Why do I forget her last name? The Irish fighter who my buddy Odie texted me, Katie's fighting right now.
Katie Taylor.
Yeah. So I watched Katie Taylor fight.
She can go to.
I've seen
She's a badass.
like 3 of her fights now. She's not on this card, but I just wanted to mention that. So super featherweight Muhammad Alakil versus Travis Crawford, which I'm guessing is related to Terrence Crawford. I don't know.
Believe it's younger brother. I could be wrong about that.
Muhammad Akhlil is at minus 1,800. That's bad, right?
Yeah, that's a big dog.
Yeah. Okay. Super middleweight Christian Mobili. There's no.
Wait, you said minus? No, that's favorite.
That's minus. So he's 18.
Yeah, it's 18-1 favorite. Okay.
Christian Mobili is MB. So there's no. I'm just going to go with Mobili. I don't know. The B may be silent. Going up against Lester Martinez. Mobili is minus 190.
The problem I find myself in as a boxing fan is that even I don't know a lot of these dudes. This is one of the issues.
This is kind of my point.
Yeah, no. Yeah, like point made. This is one, and I agree with your point. This is one of those issues that I think we have made our way into, is that we have created this world where Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather are going to fight because reasons, and that's going to get all the hype and attention, to the point that even those of us that enjoy boxing are like, I don't know the dudes on the card because I've never seen them.
2 more fights. You do know at least 3 of these guys. All right, super welterweight, Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr.
Sure.
So you've heard of Fernando Vargas Jr. Because if I've heard of him, I know you've heard of him.
Yep.
Callum Walsh minus 275. And finally, Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford, which is the main event, which will happen somewhere around 2 or 3 a.m. You might be able to watch that Hawaii game, then
And
switch
boxing.
over and watch the main
yeah.
card. You probably will be able to do that. Canelo is at a minus 160.
Yeah, that's actually going to be, I think that is honestly going to be
I
a
want to
very good
see
fight.
if Netflix has improved over the last couple of times that they've had these sort of events, which I think they will. I want to see if the broadcasting team has gotten better, things like that. And the fact that you can watch big time boxing on Netflix and not have to pay for it, I think is a big deal, but it won't happen until technically Sunday.
Out of 2. This one's interesting because it is the first time that Crawford will be fighting in the 168 division. He is moving up to the heaviest he has ever fought at. He has won titles in lightweight and junior middleweight, but he's never fought above 154. This is also the highest profile fight that Canelo Alvarez has dated back to, I think, like 2022 when he fought Dimitri Bivol. And he's really, again, he's fought a lot of fights and a lot of up-and-comers, and I respect that of Canelo Alvarez. This is the first time that he's fought somebody that truly, genuinely feels like a legitimate and actual competition in this one. I am going to take Canelo Alvarez in the middleweight fight. I still think he is the best fighter at middleweight on the face of the planet. Terrence Crawford's a dude that can throw that one overhand right that puts him to sleep quick. My only thing is, if Crawford can't win this thing by a KO and do so in the first 3 to 4 rounds, by fighting 14 plus pounds heavier than he's ever fought before, I think Canelo Alvarez can dance around enough to wear him out. Then he moves in for that quick inside kill. So give me Canelo. I would not be shocked for an early knockout, though. If you want to play both sides of it, take a little bet on Alvarez by decision over the length, and take a bet on Crawford in a KO, and one of those two is likely going to be the outcome. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We will wrap it up by looking at the NFL schedule of the weekend, making our picks and sending you off into the football weekend, even though you have to work tomorrow. We don't, so we're pretending like we're going into the weekend next on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. No, Vince McMahon is not the hero in the situation. He's still a terrible person.
He
who
probably
did one
believes
good
he's the
thing.
hero in this situation. He probably definitely believes
He
it.
thinks he is.
Yeah.
But he thinks that in every situation.
Bowie.
The Campbell Camels. I'm going to hit the restroom. My shower will turn over so brief.
I want to be more angry about prices when it comes to that sort of thing. And yeah, I can't go, but I got to be honest. I never pay for wrestling tickets anyway. This is one of the perks of working in radio. I'm sure, or at least I hope, in your place of business where you work that you get some perks. Ours is occasional free food and tickets to things on occasion. You don't always get them. You got to put in for them. And if you do get them, awesome. And if you don't, you know, it's not like a lottery or anything. It's first come, first serve. We have stuff. Plus, us going to mornings has really killed me going to anything live. Because you try to switch your sleep schedule on the weekend and it's hard to get it back. And yeah. Well, that's been a while, James. I'm really not sure that I've ever bought tickets to a sporting event. I do cruise. I think when his contract is up with TNA, or WWE ends up just buying TNA, which they may have secretly already done, or TKO buys them, and then they just transition contracts. One thing I'm tired of, and I think it demeans, even though it does get exposure, is the fact that Trick Williams is still the TNA champion. They got to figure out a way to get that back on someone who wrestles for TNA. I mean, it's definitely helped Trick Williams, but I think it's hurt TNA a little bit. Maybe they're just looking for the right person to take it off of them, the way Ash by Elegance did against Lacey, getting the women's championship back. You would have thought that Joe would be the guy, but I don't know. One thing the crossover has done, though, it's made me watch TNA, which I wasn't doing before. I would go in after the emergence of Joe Hendry and just go and fast forward to wherever he was and watch his stuff. But now I watch a little bit more of it. I have it on my DVR with my other wrestling. Oh, I haven't gotten there yet. So apparently Rob Riggle and Kevin Hart are on New Heights. I've only listened to the first part of it. They said they had guests, but they didn't say who it was. I'll hear some more of that today. Man, could the Chiefs start out 0-2?
Yes.
Wow. Then we get to hear, yes, it's over. It's all over. They're 0-2. The dynasty is done.
Let's take a look at the NFL weekend upcoming, ladies and gentlemen. It kicks off this evening. The Washington Commanders on the road at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers favored by 3.5 at the crib. So the standard home field point spread in play in this one. Great one. Where are we going?
Congratulations to Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night football for actually having good games.
Holy crap, good games.
What a
too.
game this will be tonight. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go Washington.
I'm actually going Green Bay. Kind of almost exactly opposite of both directions I thought that we would go here. I am I'll tell you, I like the Packers.
Except for you picked Green Bay to be in the Super Bowl and I picked Washington to be in the Super Bowl. And for consistency, I have to think that
that is fair enough.
Head to head.
That is fair enough. I'm going to go that direction. I think that Micah Parsons' defense, I still think Washington needs an upgrade. That being said, big night for Deebo Samuels. Give me an anytime touchdown bet on Deebo. Jacksonville at Cincinnati. The Bengals at the crib favored by 3.5. Give me Jacksonville. Give me the Jags. Give me the Jags over the Bengals. I'm in. I believe they can run the football.
The boo box doesn't exist because I'm going to go with the Bengals here.
It is, because somebody will be taking a punishment this week. I am sure of it. The Jags can run the football now. That's what I need.
I get that, but I don't think Jacksonville's defense is as good as Cleveland's defense. I know I said it. I don't think they are.
I don't think that's terribly unfair.
And I think because of that, I think Joe Burrow is going to be able to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, but I think Cincinnati Bengals defense is that bad.
Oh yeah, they're not good.
No, they're not good. Giants at Cowboys. Dallas favored by 5.5 in this one. A lot of folks surprised by how good Dallas looked in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Almost said the Phillies. Probably would have looked good against Phillies too. Who you got?
You go first.
I just went first.
Did you?
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't.
I said, give me the Jags.
No, we're talking about Dallas.
No, I know that. I went first on the last one. You go first on this one.
Okay, Dallas is playing who again?
The New York Giants at the crib.
Oh, okay. Dallas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm actually going to go with you on this one. I have some level of belief that the Giants will figure it out. Russell Wilson looked awful in week number 1. I don't know if Jackson's start happens next weekend. We'll find out. But I do think Dallas back at the crib gets the rebound game. Chicago at Detroit. Lions favored by 6.5.
Yeah, I'm going Detroit.
I'm going Detroit too. Listen, I think Caleb Williams is going to be fine, but I think it's going to take time. And I don't think week 2 is time enough. The Rams at the Titans. The Rams favored by 5.5 on the road.
Rams.
Yep, same here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Titans keep this one close, though. At least till late. New England at Miami. Good God, the Dolphins suck. However, they are favored by 1.5 in this one.
Really?
Do we put our retirement fund on the Patriots?
Yeah, like I got one of those. Yeah, I'm going Patriots.
And win $10 when it pays off. Yeah, I'll take the Patriots on the road to Miami.
Food.
San Francisco minus 3.5. No Brock Purdy, no George Kittle on this one. They are on the road taking on Spencer Rattler and the boys in the Superdome in New Orleans.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to go Spencer Rattler on that.
Give me the Rat Daddy. It's Rat Daddy season, baby. Buffalo at the New York Football Jets. The Bills minus 6.5. Give me all the money on the Bills. After what I saw last week, listen, I like the Jets, and I think Aaron Rodgers was special to win that game. Give me all the money on the Buffalo Bills.
All right, just because I'm going to go Jets close in an upset. Look at how they play Pittsburgh. I think the Jets are building confidence, even though they lost last week. Yeah, I'm gonna go upset.
All right, fair enough. Seattle's at Pittsburgh.
Take some
favored
risks, baby.
By minus 2.5. I'll take the Steelers at the crib.
Steelers over who?
Seattle.
Yeah, Steelers.
Cleveland is on the road at Baltimore. Baltimore favored by the biggest spread of the weekend, 11.5. Give me Baltimore in the cover.
Ooh, what if Baltimore started out 0-2?
They won't, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm going Baltimore.
Denver is at Indianapolis at 4:05 on Sunday. I will take the. A lot of people high on Danny Dimes after that weekend. I think the Dolphins are that bad. Give me the Broncos on the road. They did turn the ball over a few times, though.
I'm going with Indianapolis.
All right. Carolina at Arizona. The Cardinals favored by 6.5 at the crib over the Panthers. Do they cover? Forget the win. Do they cover?
Oh, God. How far have we fallen? That I have to try to figure out if I think you know what? I can't. I'm going Panthers winning this game.
I like it. I actually am too. Philly at Kansas City. Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles, however, are favored in Arrowhead by 1.5.
KC back home, not in a foreign country. I think that's going to help. They want a little bit of revenge. I know they didn't look great last week. But the guy who their entire game plan was around is not there, so they won't be game planning with him this time. I think the Chiefs win close.
I'm so conflicted on this one. I'm just going to enjoy a football game. Give me Philly close. Atlanta at Minnesota to wrap us up on Sunday night. The Vikings minus 3.5 at the crib.
Vikings.
Give me Atlanta. I'm in on Michael Penix. Michael Penix. Yep. I hate Atlanta so much.
He said Penix.
I'm in on Michael Penix Jr.
I just want to make sure.
Big Penix energy, baby.
Penix Jr.
And then we will talk about Monday night's game on Monday night. There you go. There's our NFL picks and predictions for the weekend.
The Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, Rob just took the majority of them, but I do have at least one. Well, I got two. All right, Mookie
Betts
is Xing
of the LA Dodgers. Mookie Betts last night had a fistful of RBIs. Mookie Betts last night made a run. He has been responsible for nearly half of the Dodgers runs that they've scored over the last 3 games. 9 of their last 22 runs have come as either a Miku Betts dinger or RBI or run scored. Dude is on a heater right now, to the point that a lot of people are saying he may be, if he stays on this pace, working his way into the NL MVP conversation. I don't think he's there. It's still Shohei, but he can make it interesting, especially, being on the same team.
All right, I only got one more, and it's Dave Canales.
Dave Canales Xing. Did he say something in a presser, or is this just general conversation about the Panthers stink?
It's something that Rashad hinted about earlier, about people turning on the coach. From what I can tell, he's trending because everybody says he's the problem.
I don't agree. I'm going to say I'm 180 on one spot. You know who I think the problem is now? I'm coming around to your side. I think Ejiro Evero is the problem. I think Evero is a guy who is either too stubborn to admit or to change that he does not have the dudes he needs to run the scheme he wants to run. That's why I brought up specifically to Rashad. A 4-3 is dependent on having linebackers that can understand when they need to step up and
not
run
a
versus
new
drop into
problem
coverage.
for him either.
No, I think in years gone by, when you had guys like Shaq and Josie Jewell, like you had the dogs to run that scheme. You just don't have those dogs at linebacker anymore. Like this needs to be a 4-3 defense and play to your defensive line. And instead, he continues to run out a set that relies on the linebackers when that's the weakest unit you have on the defensive side of the ball. I didn't take Rashad saying coaching change meaning Canales. I took it meaning as Ejiro Evero. But we'll find out. They win this game against Arizona this weekend, maybe things change. If they don't win this game against Arizona this weekend, the conversation next week could have a little bit more hostility to it. Thank you for being here. We're off tomorrow, so no show tomorrow. We will, fingers crossed, return on Monday. We'll run you through the college football week and the NFL weekend. We'll talk some baseball as well. I am Rob Brown. He is Lonzo. Do not drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. And respect each other, love each other, support each other. Let's make this a better place, shall we? See you back here Monday on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
Fake the throw.
I pushed the button.
Okay, it was up.
Yeah, no, I know.
See? It happens to you too. Maybe you caught a corner like I did earlier and caught that, hit it. It just cursor moved just a little bit.
What is your next success story? At University of Maryland Global Campus, you can succeed again with more than 135 affordable online degrees and certificates to help you move your career forward. From cybersecurity and AI to healthcare and MBA, our programs help you build critical thinking.
All right, guys. Sorry, I'm just sitting here doing my work. I got to go because I got to do my work. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for being here.